What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey episode number 160 presented by the Barroom Network. It is the home of your soon-to-be 10th overall picking New Jersey Devils and number 2 overall picking Chicago Blackhawks. My name is Vinny Parisi and I am a certified G and a bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. And this right here, this is Frankie Mueller. And he thought he was actually going to win Survivor. And you can't
Yeah.
teach that. What up, Frank?
Yeah, there was no way he was winning Survivor.
Hell no. Hell no.
He's wacky.
He was wacky. Frank, I have a theory.
Okay.
You seen Frozen?
Uh-huh.
You like Frozen?
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Anna and Elsa's parents are definitely Tarzan's parents.
Wow.
They're for sure siblings. They just are. No one will convince
What's
me
your theory,
otherwise.
though?
Tarzan's parents died at sea.
I need factual evidence.
Tarzan's parents died at sea. Anna and Elsa's parents died at sea. Like, what happened there?
I feel
They kind of look alike.
I don't know if you've ever noticed this in movies, in Disney movies, but the mother's always dead.
Yeah.
In 90% of all Disney.
Yeah.
Maybe all of them.
Moms love dying in Disney films, for sure.
I'm trying to think, I think all, honestly.
Yeah. In Lion King, the dad died.
Or do I have it backwards, or is it
Or like
the moms, right?
a parent dies.
Yeah.
Parents love dying, but I believe it's a big universe. It's the Disney universe. Siblings.
That'd be
Siblings.
crazy.
Do your research. Siblings.
That'd be crazy.
Tarzan, the king of the jungle, related to Anna and Elsa.
I mean,
same parents.
I guess we can't completely put it out of the question.
It's not completely out of the question.
I would say that they're probably not related, but
they're in the same universe. All of it. It's
That's
all the
fair.
same. Like Kingdom Hearts.
That's fair.
In Toy Story, when Buzz and Woody are flying through the air at the end and it's moving day, and they land in the van, and Andy's like, he finds them. He thinks they're lost. Hakuna Matata is playing on the radio.
Well, that's always been the case. There's always like little Easter eggs to other Disney movies in Disney movies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's possible.
That's what I'm trying to say. I like these movies, though, Frank.
Just kind of random. Did you watch Frozen recently?
No, popped in my head.
Oh.
Completely popped in my head. A lot of weird shit going on up in here.
Yeah.
Frank, you know what else is a lot of weird shit going on? Some shit we gotta talk about in the NHL in period number 1. Oh, another thing I realized. You know The Sandlot?
Mm-hmm.
It came out in 1993 or 1992, but it takes place in the early 60s, 31 years and like before it actually came out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The gap between when the movie was supposed to take place and when it actually came out is the same gap between the year it came out and now, 31 years.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
That is.
Pretty crazy. We're getting old, this thing here called time. Messing with my brain. Speaking of time, the Boston Bruins ran out of time against the Florida Panthers. You were a little worried based on our conversation during our spaces last week. You thought Florida would prevail, but you said if Boston wins Game 6, they'd win Game 7.
Yeah.
They lost Game 6 after taking a 1-0 lead in said game. They were defeated and eliminated from postseason contention by the Florida Panthers. What's your overall thoughts on that series as a whole?
Well, they started out the series, the Bruins, firing on all cylinders. They were able to go into Florida, take Game 1 in a dominant fashion, right? That had to feel really good if you're a Bruins fan, because the goal for every team, and we've talked about it many times before on this show, is to at least take one game on the road. You never lose a series until you lose a game at home, and they did just that. The Bruins went in strong, dominated Game 1. From Game 2 on, it seemed like the Bruins were stuck in mud. The Panthers dominated every other game in the series. They wore the Bruins down. They were outplayed. They were outshot. They were outchanced. Even in Game 5, where the Bruins won, they only won 2-1, and it felt like they had to give everything they got just to get a 2-1 victory. That's how good this Florida Panthers defense is and how good Bobrovsky's been. The Florida Panthers are almost like a real life animal predator. They wear down their prey and pounce when their prey is tired. And after that exhausting Game 5 win for the Bruins, to keep scraping up and grinding just to keep games close, it just proved too much for the Boston Bruins. And that's how good this Florida Panthers team is. And that's why they prevailed.
Do you want to address Don Burr?
Don Burr. Detroit versus everybody. It's Detroit and nothing else. Sorry. Well, Detroit didn't even make the postseason, Don.
Like, what is this guy even on? Like, it's not football season, so the one team in your town that's relevant is not active right now. The Detroit Red Wings choked away their postseason spot. Stevie Y, the Eyes are playing more like the Eyes are fan. What the hell's going on there? Are they going to bring Patrick Kane back? What's going on with some of these young kids they got chilling in the Grand Rapids Griffins? The Detroit Red Wings, really, out of every team that missed the playoffs, had the biggest choke right at the end there. I don't know what you're talking about, Don Burr, but it's not Detroit versus everybody. It's Detroit versus themselves right now. Oh, how about the Detroit Tigers that got off to this great start? They swept the White Sox to start the season off. They were real good. Oh, no, never mind. They turned Javi Baez into the worst baseball player in the league right now. The Detroit Tigers, they're the only team not named the White Sox in the AL Central that's really kind of choking it away too. So what's going on there? I don't know. How about the Pistons? What did they start the season like? 0-15 or something like that? Or no, they beat the Bulls in game 1 of the season. Is that what it was? And then they lost 14 straight or something dumb like that. I mean, Don Burr, you got to just hold these Detroit comments until football season starts, because then you'll have a leg to stand on. Frank and I are actually doing what we do every other week in the regular season of the NFL. We're ranking the top 10 teams. We're having our mid-off season edition version of that. The way too early power rankings are coming at you. You'll probably see the Lions on both of our lists. They're on mine. I'm assuming they're on Frankie's. Just because, Frank, right?
Okay, I gotta stay tuned.
You gotta stay tuned, I guess.
You never know, man.
But if you're
I'm a
Don
wild
Burr,
card.
if you're Don Burr and it's not football season, I'm kind of holding off on these Detroit versus everybody, nothing else, sorry comments.
Wow.
Love Don
He's
Burr,
right.
though.
But you're right.
I love Don Burr, though. He's passionate.
He's
I don't
passionate.
know.
I love a passionate fan. I really do.
I do want to know the Don Burr story. Like, how did this guy Don Burr, who's from Detroit, loves Detroit sports, all in on the Wings, Lions, Tigers, and Pistons? I'm assuming Michigan, maybe. You just seem like a Michigan fan to me. Maybe I'm insulting you. How did you end up like in the comments of this Chicago themed? I mean, this show is all NHL, but the bar room in general is mostly Chicago themed network. Like, how did you end up becoming like a loyal listener just to troll all the Chicago? Like, are you doing this in a Green Bay, Wisconsin network? Are you doing this to Minnesota fans and podcasts and whatnot? I'm just so curious. I need to
feel
know
like
the Don Burr story.
Chicago fans just are the funniest to troll. Right? Get a good reaction out of them.
Yeah, I think the most sensitive fan base in Chicago is either the Bears or the Cubs. Because when the White Sox are terrible, White Sox fans are like, "Yeah, we stink. That's a joke of the franchise." When the Cubs stink, you do hear a million excuses. You're not even going to argue with that. It's the excuse train. The White Sox, yeah, they suck. You've heard me say things about them that you would never hear me say about a team. You wouldn't think about a team I love. But I do think there are other towns that have some sensitive fan bases. The Dallas Cowboys. Oh my God. The Dallas Cowboys. They're winning the Super Bowl every year. They have a mediocre quarterback, but we're not going to go there. Frank, Florida, they took care of their business against Boston. That team, man. That team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, they're wow. They're
Heard
impressive.
a debate on the Twitter sphere. It actually, I think, started with the Spit and Chicklets guys. I'd love to hear Tom, his opinion on this. There are a lot of people's opinion I'd want to hear on this matter. Who is Florida's number one defenseman? Because Merles from Spit and Chicklets, he's not on the actual Spit and Chicklets show. He hosts their side show, Game Notes. It's a betting themed show. Frank, you would actually probably really like Game Notes. He put a tweet out there. who is the best defenseman on the Florida Panthers? And the options in his poll were Montour and Ekblad. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, those are the top two defensemen on Florida. You look through the comments on this, Frank, and it's Florida Panthers fans going, "You dummy, it's actually freaking Forsling. What do you mean, who is it between Montour and Ekblad?" And then I started thinking to myself, I started looking through the stats a little bit, and I'm like, you can make a well-constructed argument that Forsling is their
It could
best
be
defenseman,
Forsling.
but the fact that they have three guys in this conversation of who's their best defenseman, that's a large reason why they're in the conference finals for the second straight season.
They
You have
play
three guys who could be argued as your number one.
they play a game that not a lot of other teams in the NHL play. And when we talk about the Panthers versus the Stars, I'll kind of explain their style of play that they do a little bit, but it's very unique over the rest of the teams in the NHL.
Yeah, very fair. One of the biggest reasons for me that they beat Boston, I learned Boston should have learned a lesson in the postseason this year. Charlie Coyle, Pavel Zacha, good players. They're not number one defensemen. Neither one of them is a number one defenseman. The Bruins sorely lacked that. Barkov ate them alive. He ate them alive. And Barkov, listen, I won that argument between me, you, and Joey from 2020. Who were in 20? Was it 20? I think it was 2021.
I remember where
We were in John's backyard.
Yeah.
Our buddy John. And we were having a bonfire. We were chatting up some puck. And I said, rank your top five if you could draft from scratch. So you're not going to include Crosby or Ovechkin. They were in their early 30s at the time. You're drafting a team from scratch. Who would be the five guys you take? This is before Cale Makar became what he is today, too. Let's remember. I think we all said McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Matthews were like four of the five. And then everybody's fifth was different. But you and Joey respected each other's fifth.
I don't even remember who my fifth was.
When I said Barkov, you probably said like Kucherov or Kane or something dumb, which those guys are. Barkov is so unreal. And then my argument was, if we would have had this conversation in 2005, you would have said Crosby, Malkin, Kane, maybe Stamkos. I would have had Patrice Bergeron, and you all would have laughed at me because Patrice Bergeron didn't score as many points as some of these other guys, but that's not all hockey's about. Sasha Barkov is one of the best players in the NHL. He has been since I said that. I think now if I were redrafting the NHL from scratch, he'd probably fall in that like 7, 8, 9 range because I do think that highly of Cale Makar, Leon Draisaitl, Connor Bedard, Jack Hughes is in the mix now. But Barkov, man, that's a dude. And even through saying all that, he's been underwhelming in the playoffs in his career. Even last year when they went to the Cup offensively, this year, probably their Conn Smythe Trophy leader right now.
He's playing great.
He shut down what Boston had. Pasternak was a little slow in that series, and the Bruins just weren't able to match down the middle. So that's my biggest takeaway from Florida getting there.
Yeah, and he's always going to be in the talks to be a Selke winner. I mean, so if he puts up the numbers and he's got the defense, I mean, he's good.
Which, since that argument, Sasha Barkov has been in the Stanley Cup final. He's won the Selke Trophy twice, and they're in the conference final again this year.
Mm-hmm.
Basically putting together a Hall of Fame career is Sasha Barkov. The Bruins had no answer for him. They're out. Congrats to Sasha Barkov for winning your second Selke Trophy. That was announced a couple days ago. Good for him.
Yeah.
I think I have to, if I'm going to get a Florida jersey at any point, I think for me it would have to be Barkov. Just because I was on that wagon pretty, and listen, I make a lot of wrong, dumb hockey takes. Okay. That was not one of them. I think when you have a hit like that, you need to maybe celebrate and get a jersey or at least a t-shirt. Love Barkov. Frank, the New York Rangers took care of their business against the Carolina Hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
You thought the Canes were going to come back. I did too. I thought we had our 5th ever 3-0 comeback. And you know what? The Hurricanes shit the bed. The Panthers beat the Bruins, I think, in Game 6. I know they had a 1-0 lead, the Bruins, but the Panthers, they played better. They dominated. They caught those goals back, and they won the game. I think Carolina choked in Game 6.
Well, it's not much of a think. They did.
But like the Rangers are a great team. I don't think they snatched victory from the hands of defeat. I don't. I think they took advantage of the Hurricanes messing up.
It's fair. I mean, yeah, it's a very fun series to watch.
Oh yeah.
Rangers do what they do best, better than anybody over the past couple of years, and that's taking a multi-game series lead in the postseason. They went up 3-0 on the odds-on favorites to win the Stanley Cup, and everything appeared to be smooth sailing, right? However, if we know the Rangers, these new Rangers of the past few years, no series lead is safe. Carolina pulls out a late Game 4 victory thanks to a goal by Brady Shea. With less than 4 minutes to go to force Game 5, momentum is swirling for the Carolina Hurricanes. Game 5 comes around, dominated on the road by the Carolina Hurricanes. A convincing 4-1 win to send this series back to Raleigh, North Carolina for a Game 6. Game 6 comes around, and the Rangers' backs against the wall. They can't believe what they're witnessing. A 3-0 series lead slipping away at their fingertips. The Canes hold a 3-1 lead heading into the third period. It appears, hey, we might go to Game 7. Then all of a sudden, Chris Kreider has a legacy performance, scores 3 straight goals in the third period, eerily similar to the Mark Messier guarantee game in 1994. That's all people were talking about.
Ew.
That's what all the people were talking about
Ew.
when that happened, which also took place in Game 6 30 years later.
Ew.
People make fun of me for how much I say sports is poetry, but that was one of the most poetic sports moments I think I've ever witnessed with my own 2 eyes.
Chris Kreider is not a Hall of Famer. He has 304 goals, 248 assists, 552 points in 815 games. He's a good player. He's a really, really good player. He's got 150 burger. He's had at least 30 in each of the last 3 seasons. He's getting better with age because all 3 of his 30-plus goal seasons, including his 50 burger, came 30 or later. The closest he came to 30 before that in his 20s was 28. Very good defensively. He's gotten a couple Selke votes in his career. But he is very much not a Hall of Famer, right? He's just a very, very good player. I don't normally advocate for non-Hall of Famers to get their numbers retired, but Chris Kreider might be a number retire guy for the Rangers. He is one of their all-time greatest postseason performers in the history of the New York Rangers. A 100 and something, or they're about to have their centennial season either next year or the year after. He's got 47 goals in his careers in the playoffs, and 7 so far this year, 6 last year, and only 7 games. He had 10 the year before when they lost to the Lightning in the conference finals. I mean, this guy has just been magnificent. He is one of their all-time great postseason guys, and it wouldn't shock me if one day number 20 hangs from the rafters at MSG, despite not being a Hall of Fame caliber guy.
Yeah, and he's clutch on the power play too. I mean, he might be their most clutch player, to be honest with you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like I don't even think anybody else comes close. Like he's not the best player.
Panarin and Zibanejad disappear at stretches in the playoffs.
Yeah, like they might be better on paper, but I think when it comes to clutchness, I don't think there's another clutch player that's even close to Kreider on the Rangers.
100%. And now this New York Rangers team is going to meet that Florida Panthers team. You got a team that's pretty much firing on all cylinders in the Florida Panthers. They really haven't looked weak against any opponent. Even the games they lost to the Bruins outside of Game 1, they kind of dominated. Now the Bruins, they did shoot themselves in the foot here and there. They blew that 2-0 lead in Game 3. But for the most part, Florida Panthers have handled their business against 2 Atlantic Division rivals. Now they're going to play a team in the New York Rangers. And listen, I'm not taking away anything from the Rangers. They're one of the Final 4 teams. Even though I crap on them all the time, they are one of the Final 4 teams. They have an elite goalie. They have a number 1 defenseman. They have center depth. They're great on the wing. They're awesome. You beat Washington, and Carolina shot themselves in the foot how many times? I don't think they have had the caliber of opponent that Florida has had so far, and Florida made it look easy. So
Yeah.
I don't know what your opinion of this whole series is going to be, but we'll start with the goaltending. This is the best goaltending matchup, arguably, in the postseason. It's close. There are a couple really, really good ones that we've had, but Igor Shesterkin can be argued as the best goaltender in the NHL. He kind of had a lackluster first half. He was okay, and then he was selected to the All-Star game for some reason, and basically that fueled his fire because he's basically been the best goalie in the NHL since the All-Star break, and he's going against Sergei Bobrovsky, who basically since the halfway mark of last season has been one of the top 5 best goalies in the NHL. And two Vezina trophies, a trip to the final, playoff triumphs with the Columbus Blue Jackets back in the day. Now he's with Florida looking to win the Stanley Cup, possibly the Conn Smythe Trophy. We'll see how that all goes. But who has the goaltending edge in this series between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers? It actually looks like I lost Frankie for a second, so I'm going to wait to get his response on that. For me, I think the goaltending edge slightly, ever so slightly, goes to the New York Rangers. I don't know if Igor is going to end up being a Hall of Famer or anything like that. I certainly think he has a chance, but I don't think, and I do think Bobrovsky is going to be a Hall of Famer. I think there's a good chance that that ends up happening. We'll see if they're able to um, get into the Stanley Cup final, and that'll obviously improve what's going on with Florida, but I'm going to give the edge to Igor Shesterkin. He, for the last handful of years, has been one of the best players on the New York Rangers and in general. So my goaltending edge definitely goes to Igor Shesterkin out of the two.
Where did we leave off, VP?
Yeah, I'm asking who's the best or who's got the goaltending edge in this series, despite each team having great goaltending.
And who'd you say?
I said Igor, even
Okay.
though I'm high on Bob. I think he's a Hall of Famer.
All right. So here's my logic here. We have two very elite goaltenders in this series. So I'll hear an argument for what team has the goaltending edge, but I'm leaning towards Sergei Bobrovsky. I really don't think there's a wrong answer here. You compare the stats; both have been lights out, both having similar postseasons. So I don't think there's a wrong answer here. Um, when both of these goalies are at their highest level, they can turn the tide of any series. I really think it's a pick 'em. The reason I'm giving Bobrovsky the slight edge is he was the better of the two goalies in the regular season and a Vezina nominated finalist. I think that's going to go a long way in this series. Better save percentage right now. You've played better teams than the Rangers did, and you still were lights out. I'm giving the edge to Bob.
Do you think Bob's going to win the Vezina or Hellebuck?
Hellebuck.
It's probably going to be Hellebuck, right?
Yeah.
But Bob's already got two.
He's already got two, and he's played better teams. To me, he's had I don't know how you want to put it, more of aggression towards him in the playoffs. It's just there's no wrong answer, like I said. So, but I think Bobrovsky's got my edge.
Very fair. I'm with you. I mean, the other series is going to be a wash. Like it's going to be easy to pick who's the better of the two. But in this one, like it could go either way. I went Igor basically because I think the New York Rangers need Igor to be the better goalie if they want to win. I think Bob can have just a slightly above average series and the Florida Panthers could still win. The Rangers need MVP Igor to win this series, in my opinion. We'll see what we say as the winner. Frank, who are the 5 best players in this series overall?
So I'm not going to do this for the other series, but I included both goalies for this one.
That's very fair.
Yeah, you have to.
Ottinger probably just misses the cut or like maybe top 10, but like in this series, I think that's absolutely something to say. Yeah. I think we might have lost Frankie again for a second, so I'm going to see if he can kind of reconnect his marbles here before we get going in the predictions, or not the predictions, but also the 5 best players in this series. It sounded like Frankie was going to include 2 goaltenders, so I'm excited to see where that's all going to line up. But I'm looking at the players here, and I think I have mine good to go. It's really hard because there are so many good players in this series. We're leaving some good ones out. I'll start because I was going to let Frankie go first, but I'll go first. At number 5, I think the 5th best player in this series is, the goaltender, Sergei Bobrovsky of the Florida Panthers. I think there's a chance that he really gets this Florida Panthers team into the final, and that would allow him to um, kind of cement his Hall of Fame legacy a little bit. If you got 2 Vezina trophies, these insane career playoff numbers, regular season numbers, obviously that come with the Vezina, and then you win the Stanley Cup, yeah. As a goaltender, I think that's just about enough to get you in, especially with all the games played that he has. I have him as the 5th best player in this series. At number 4, I have the New York Rangers goaltender, Igor Shesterkin. I said he gives the Florida Panthers the goaltending edge. I got him a tick above Bob and the 4th overall best player in this series. Igor is one of the best players in the world. There's no doubting it. He can change a game. He's a brick wall back there. It'll come down to how well he plays against these Florida Panthers and also how much scoring they do for him. And the leader of that for the Florida Panthers is the bread man, or for the New York Rangers, the bread man, Artemi Panarin. Panarin has been one of the best wingers in the NHL for a long time now. He basically is getting screwed out of being in the Hart Trophy conversation this year because of how good, there was a big 4 this year and it didn't include Panarin. I think in most years, Panarin would have at least been nominated for the Calder Trophy. Or the Hart Trophy. I say the same thing about David Pastrnak. I kind of put Panarin and Pastrnak in that same little sphere there this season, because if McDavid, Matthews, Kucherov, and McKinnon didn't all either have 69 goals or 135 plus points, Panarin would have been right there in the MVP conversation. He got that Rangers team to where they were going to be offensively. He plays so well with everyone. He drives offense like a centerman, and I got him as the 3rd best player in the series. At number 2, we kind of touched on him. Not kind of. We did touch on him. I have Barkov. I think Barkov's the 2nd best overall player in this series. He is an elite 2-way center. He drives offense. He plays well in his own end when it comes to defending. He can control the neutral zone. He could snipe. He could make plays for others. With some of the wingers that he has playing with him, there's no doubt that he's able to, get his game going and be one of the very best players in the NHL. I'm excited to see what Barkov does, though, because this Rangers team, it's a little bit different of an animal than the Boston Bruins. Now, he went up against Braden Point and, everything they got going on there in Tampa Bay. But when you get to the Bruins and you've got Zaka and Coyle, yeah, I think Barkov is going to win that matchup 9 times out of 10. So it'll be very interesting to see how he goes up against this Rangers team with Zibanejad as their top line center, a couple other really good players down the middle for New York. I'm sure he's going to get a healthy heaping of Fox, which, I mean, that's going to make things difficult for him. But, I'm excited to see it. And then the number 1 overall best player in this series, I have it as, some people love him, some people hate him, but it's Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk was 3rd in Hart Trophy voting last season. And boy, did he come close to winning the Conn Smythe Trophy. The Florida Panthers came this close to winning the Stanley Cup last year. And Tkachuk was one of the big reasons why. Well, they're right back here again. What is it that makes Matthew Tkachuk so good? Well, it does start in his own zone. He's definitely not a defensive liability. He can back check. He could get to places he needs to be. He's fast. He's smart. He's aware of what needs to do where, what needs to go where. He's kind of, he's got an edge to his game, which obviously helps him in the defensive zone. It also helps him in the offensive zone. Matthew Tkachuk is one of the very best players in the NHL when it comes to creating offense. Obviously, when you think of the best players in the NHL, a lot of the times the guys that score a crap ton of points are the ones that do kind of rise to the top in everybody's power ranking. Matthew Tkachuk is right there. It wasn't as prominent this season. I'm thinking about, or I'm looking up right now what his final stats came out to be. He had 26 goals and 62 assists for 88 points in 80 games. It's a little bit on the lower end for him, considering he had over 100 points in each of the last 2 seasons before, including 40 plus goals. The goal scoring did take a dip a little bit this season, but the assists are right around where he's always been. So we'll see if he ever gets those goals climbing back up to what he thought he was going to be. But yeah, he's gotten Selke Trophy votes in his career as a star player in the NHL. I mean, he spent the first 6 years of his career with Calgary, and this was now his second season with the Florida Panthers. It's been nothing but success. He was traded for Huberdeau, and Huberdeau went to Calgary, and he kind of started to fall off a cliff a little bit. Well, now Matthew Tkachuk is down with the Florida Panthers, and he has absolutely been everything they've ever needed from a guy and more. And it's going to be fun to see, how that goes going forward. So it is one of those things. Tkachuk, he's going to come into this series. From the minute this series starts, you are going to ask yourself what player is going to set the tone for either team in the series. The Rangers have a couple guys. I'm sure Chris Kreider will certainly have his leadership tested in a series like this, but nobody's like Matthew Tkachuk. He is the ultimate super pest in the NHL right now. You kind of go back in time a little bit and you think of what Brad Marchand used to be for the Boston Bruins. And that allowed the Beast, that allowed Bergeron to play his game, that allowed Pasternak to play his game in the later years. Going back a little bit, you think of guys like David Krejci and Nathan Horton and Milan Lucic, and on the back end they had Zdeno Chara. Matthew Tkachuk helps everybody be in their proper spot, just like Brad Marchand. He changes the game. And I definitely think if I had to pick one player from either team to ride forward with going into the future, into this series, it would be Matthew Tkachuk. I'm excited to hear how Frankie went with his list, but he's having a really hard time connecting to the internet. So let me see if I could get him to just log in on his phone. That way we could at least keep the conversation going while trying to get him back in, because I think that's better than nothing. So sorry to the folks waiting to hear Frankie's stuff. But I mean, it's better than nothing, right? Just to kind of hold your face in and be like, hello, everyone, while he tries to fix things on his computer. Because I definitely am starting to think it is his computer that's the problem, because his internet's working. I just don't get why he's not able to get going in here. So we'll see. But yeah, when talking about the Florida Panthers, I expect I'm expecting a big series from their big guys. And I think if either team was going to win the series without their top dogs stepping up, it might be the New York Rangers. Because even if Panarin and Zibanejad don't do what we're used to seeing them do in the regular season, you got Chris Kreider. Lafreniere has been exceptional in the postseason. Capo Caco, I don't know. I've heard Blake Wheeler is going to be available for this series. I don't know if he'll play. I don't know if I'd want him to play if I were a New York Rangers fan. But he definitely will, help them in the locker room. I don't really want to move on without Frankie coming back, because I need to get his 5 best players in the series. Nope, he's typing. Let's see what he says. Frank, we need you, dude. So I'll go back to talking about Matthew Tkachuk a little bit. You guys know about his brother Brady? He plays for the Ottawa Senators. These two guys are unlike any other players in the NHL. They create chaos. They're mean. They don't really care what anybody else thinks. Um, I think in the last handful of years, only a handful of guys have had over 80 penalty minutes and over 80 points in a season. It's the two Kachuk brothers. So it's just unbelievable what these guys are able to do. But I'm excited to see how Kachuk handles this series against the New York Rangers because he's essentially been awesome every playoff series he's ever played in. So anybody in the chat that wants to chime in with their top 5 players in the series, I'm very much looking to hear. But, I'll move on until Frankie's able to come back. Then we'll go back into what we were talking about. Over in, I can't even flip it to the other period. So, yeah, I'll just stick with the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers. When I'm thinking about the top 5 players on the New York Rangers in general, obviously, you would have Panarin number 1. I would put Igor number 2. Then I would rank Mika Zibanejad as number 3. He is the type of player who he's kind of like a Dia Barkov. Like he's a number 1 center that could defend. He can shoot. He's been a 50-goal man in his NHL career before. Playing alongside Panarin, that is something that has really helped him. And, it's allowed him to grow as a player. We're dealing with some serious technical difficulties here. I apologize to everybody watching, but, sometimes that happens when you are doing live programming. So we'll see if I'm able to get Frankie in here. I'm working on that. This is tough. Who would I rank number 3? No, I said Zibanejad was number 3. Number 4, I probably would rank Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider, like we talk about, is one of the all-time great New York Rangers. He is the definition of a power forward. I mean, he goes to the front of the net, tips, does all those sorts of things. I think there's a chance that he goes down as one of the all-time great Ranger players. And, nothing stopping him from keeping it going for the next handful of years. It's not like he's so old. I mean, he's a veteran now. I'm doing everything I can to try and get Frankie back in this stream, so I apologize for the little delay here. And right now, I said Panarin 1, Igor 2, Zibanejad 3, Kreider 4. I might put Alexis Lafreniere at number 5. He has been kind of I don't want to say he's been a busted number 1 overall pick, over the last handful of years when you compare him to guys like Jack Hughes, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, even a Connor Bedard. But it's one of those things like he's been on fire lately. So let's see what we could get from him in the playoffs. And that's been working out well for the Rangers. Frank, are you here with audio?
Hello.
Hello. You are here with audio.
Um, yeah, but I can't see. I just give me 1 sec.
Oh, I've been trying to carry. I ran out of stuff to talk about without heading to period number 2. That's the only problem.
Do you see my picture?
Yeah, you got a loading circle. There you go.
Can you
But
hear me?
it's I can hear you, but there's a mad echo.
Can you hear
Oh,
me?
the echo went away. There you go. Yeah, I can hear you. You're a little patchy, but you're there.
I'm on a hotspot.
There you go. It's better than nothing. Frank, I've never rambled about nothing like I've rambled about nothing in the last 10 minutes or so.
Did you see the picture I sent you?
Yeah, just this outage in the Streamwood area. Are you
Yeah,
out
we have an
again?
outage. Hello?
Hello?
Hello. This is going to be very, 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 very difficult because you're hearing me on a delay. So we're talking over each other.
Well, I'll just keep that in mind as we're talking. Frank, I'll let you talk for a little bit. I said my top 5 in this series were Kachuk, Barkov, Panarin, Igor, Bob, in that order. What are your top 5 in the series?
Okay, so what I was going to say is that I have both goalies in my top 5. I'm not going to have both goalies in the Dallas and Edmonton series in my top 5, but I have both here in my order. I got Matthew Tkachuk number 1. He's the Panthers' leading scorer this postseason. He's gritty. He's nasty. He makes everything go right. And when the Florida Panthers are dominating and when he's dominating, he's contributing to that. And I really couldn't think of anybody else to put number 1. Number 2, I got Barkov, VP, your guy Barkov. From being a Selke winner again to having great offense in the postseason this year, better than any other year in his career. He's been sensational. 3, Vincent Trocheck. I was debating, do I put Chris Kreider because of what he's done this postseason and how remarkable he's been. And like I said, in my opinion, he's got more of the clutch gene, especially when it comes to special teams. But I decided to go with Vinny Trocheck. He's got 6 goals. He's got 8 assists. He's been their biggest offensive contributor for the Rangers this postseason. I felt like I should add him over Kreider. Yeah, Kreider's done the more clutch things, but Vincent Trocheck, he's just been the more dynamic offensive player in the series. And then 4, I got Bob, and 5, I got Igor. It just those 2 goalies can turn the tide of any series at any moment. Both are elite, and both are having phenomenal postseasons this year. And I just felt like I'd be doing one of them a disservice if I left them off the list.
I didn't have Kreider or Trocheck. So
Who were yours? I really didn't hear it.
Kachuk, Barkov, Panarin, Igor, and Bob. You left off Panarin. I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, I mean, Panarin might have like the best potential of all those guys we named, but just what I've seen through the postseason from Trocheck, he's been pretty great. Yeah, Panarin never came to my mind when making my list. I never even thought about adding him. I thought of him and I'm like, I don't think he really needs to be in the top 5 on my list. I don't know.
Trocheck does lead the New York Rangers in scoring in the postseason. Hey,
Am I
getting
patchy?
no, not at all. You've actually come through completely clear now,
Okay.
and there's no delay on your mouth to your words.
Okay.
So I think we
This
might be good
was
for now.
this was annoying.
I I can't wait to go back and watch me just talk about nothing for 5 minutes. I started naming off the 5 best Rangers in the series. I didn't even
To
get to the Panthers.
it's an outage in the entire area.
Hey,
And did you see till 5:50? That's crazy.
that is crazy. Hey, it happens, man.
I
It's
think
not the
it's
first time. It's not going to be the last.
I think I'm back though, like regular. I think that's why I'm not choppy.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong, but this is good news.
Well, let's give a quick hand to Joe Mandel.
Yeah.
He
Thank
popped
you,
in
Joe.
stream and added you in.
I'm sorry if it happens again and I go out. I might need him again. Uh, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you were a little choppy even right there as you were saying that, which is really funny.
I'm
Frank,
scared, VP.
who do you think is going to win this series and how many games?
All right. So, these two teams play a very different style of hockey games. I've watched these two teams play a lot this postseason and many games during the regular season, and both teams' play styles are completely 180s from each other. The one thing I noticed with the Panthers is that they do not try and excel to be number one in every statistic that there is that's kept track of. Even in the postseason this year, they aren't number one or two ranked in any major stats, whether that be their power play, whether that be their penalty kill, goals for, goals against, not even their faceoff percentage. They are not ranked one or two. They're not even at the top of their game in the postseason in any stats, but they don't try to do that. If they reach first or second, of course they're going to be happy with it and take it. It's not like they aren't going to try and be good at any of these things. It's just their play style doesn't allow for that. What their play style is and what they do better than any team is they love to wear teams down and make them tired. We saw that in the series against Tampa Bay. We saw that in the second round against the Bruins. Against the Lightning, Vasilevsky let up more goals when he was on his back or stomach, more than I have ever seen in his career. The Panthers tire out the defense to the point where they just could score about any goal, any type of goal. The New York Rangers, on the other hand, they rely heavily on special teams and goaltending. If there's a drop in either of these two, the Rangers are cooked. So this series just smells like the Panthers are going to find a greasy, gritty goal. And when I think of greasy, gritty, I think of the Panthers immediately. I think the Panthers win this series in 6 games. Kind of like what you stated, VP. This is the toughest test for the New York Rangers. The first two Hurricanes kind of shot themselves in the foot. Washington really never stood a chance. They're not even that like on that great level. They almost missed the postseason. This is the biggest test for them. And the way the Panthers play, it's just going to tire a lot of these veterans out on the New York Rangers. They got a lot of vets on this team. They're just not going to be able to handle Barkov breaking down the defense or Kachuk being that little asshole that he is on the ice. It's just, there's no way. I don't see how the Rangers beat the Panthers in this series. So Panthers in 6.
I love it. I need the New York Rangers out. I don't want to see them anymore. I don't want to hear them anymore. I don't want to smell them anymore. I want them out. I want them out as fast as I can get them out. I got a sweep. I'm picking a sweep. The
I hear you.
Florida Panthers will take down the New York Rangers in 4 games. Don't even let them sniff a win. You run them down. If you're Kachuk, you're getting in everybody's face. If you're Barkov, you're not letting Panarin or Trocheck or Zibanejad or any of these guys have any space. You'll show Chris Kreider what it's like to try to hit the middle of the ice against a real opponent. You shut them down because you can. To quote a rather famous all-time head coach in hockey history, I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great team New York has. Screw them. Get them out of here. Florida Panthers in 4.
Wow. That's crazy.
They've already swept one Metro team in the conference finals with this core.
I'd be a little surprised, to be honest with you.
I mean, I would too, but
But I love the confidence. I love the pick. It's just like a whole different ball game. The Florida Panthers are compared to the previous two teams that the Rangers had to face. But even props to beating the Hurricanes though, because they were never going to be an easy ask no matter what. But they did kind of beat themselves in the end. Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited. It starts tonight.
Yep, I'm excited too. It should be a good one. 7:00. Hopefully the Florida Panthers are able to get it done. I can't live in another world where the Rangers are playing in the final. I've only dealt with it one time since I started watching hockey. I don't want to do it again.
Or does the poetry lean towards the Rangers winning it 30 years after they just won their cup, and literally a carbon copy of what happened, the 3 straight goals in the third period? Are we witnessing history repeating itself?
2 of the last 3 years to end in 4. Talk about poetry. 2 of the last 3 years to end in 4 had the Rangers in the Stanley Cup final.
See,
94 and 14.
it just might be their time. I don't know. I don't see that. I don't see it happening. But sometimes this universe does things in a very weird way. So
it's certainly true.
So we'll see. It's hockey after all, right? Anything can happen. That's what makes it so great, this game.
Yeah. I mean, neither of us had the Rangers even making it this far, so we'll see what happens, but hopefully the Panthers are able to get it done from my point of view. Frank, we got another treat in the second round, or in the third round, I think. This Rangers Florida series is a treat, but I have a clear rooting interest. In the West series, I have a team I definitely lean towards, but I really see this as a treat. And we will talk about said treat, period number 2. Frank?
VP?
The Colorado Avalanche were defeated by the Dallas Stars in 6 games. Similarly to the other series we talked about, Boston, Florida, New York, Carolina, Colorado, they won a game 5 to force game 6. They looked like they had a chance to win game 6, and then in overtime, double overtime, Matt Duchene channeled his favorite hockey player, Patrick Kane, and did the open broken heart celebration after scoring a goal. He had a goal waved off. Well, it wasn't his goal, but he was the reason a goal was waved off for goaltender interference in overtime period number 1. And they came out firing in overtime period number 2, and Duchene got it done. The Dallas Stars move on. What were your takeaways from that series?
Before I give my takeaways, I want your opinion on that goal. No goal or good goal?
I would have called it a goal.
Okay, my theory is, I agree with you, that they called it no goal because it was a series clinching goal. I think if that was just any other game, that was game 1, that's a goal. To eliminate a team off of that, they didn't want to do it, which is a shame. That's just my theory. That's my opinion. Which is horseshit, because I think no matter what it is, you got to call it the way it is. I think they got robbed. And I just want to first also, as I dive into my little recap here, I want to say how proud I am of the Dallas Stars and that how they played in that series. To lose game 1 after being up 3-0 and rebound by winning 3 straight games in dominating fashion is ultra impressive. For some teams, that it would just have taken the wind right out of their sails. Just look at what happened to the New York Islanders. Not only that, but the Stars shut down one of the best offenses in the entire NHL. They shut down Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon, Valeri Nichushkin, Arturi Lehkonen. I mean, this is a star-studded lineup who puts up ample amount of goals every night. This team put up a masterclass of a performance and held the Avalanche to only 1 goal in 3 of the 6 playoff games in the series. Then on top of it, to put the cherry on top, the Stars scored in overtime in Game 6, where the goal was waved off and still mustered up the strength to win that game on such a deflating call. Just shows you how bad this team wants it, and that is something I haven't seen really out of any other team this postseason so far.
You just made me realize Game 1 winners went 1-3 in the fourth series in the second round.
That's why you can't just, if you win Game 1, you can't start celebrating.
Yep, the New York Rangers are the only team that won Game 1 and the series.
And they almost choked.
Yeah, and they almost choked. Yeah, I mean, the Dallas Stars, the Colorado Avalanche are very good. The Dallas Stars are better. We talked about how they basically have three separate cores. Like they have the veterans, Pavelski, Ben, Sagan, Suter. I love Ryan Suter. Then you have like that middle core from the 2017-ish draft area with Robertson and Hintz and Heiskanen, Ottinger. Then you have that new wave core of guys that were drafted within the last handful of years. Frickin' Wyatt Johnston, Logan Stankoven. I mean, this team is unbelievable. They're so deep. They're strong. They signed Matt Duchene in free agency, or did they trade for him? I don't. They got Matt Duchene after the Predators didn't want him anymore. He scores the biggest goal of his career against his former Avalanche team that originally drafted him third overall. It was just a marvelous series all around. Dallas prevailed. They were the better team. I don't think a team has been more dominant in the playoffs out of any of the four remaining than the Dallas Stars. I think out of every team, Florida's close, but they got drubbed by Boston in Game 1. Dallas went down 0-2 to Vegas, but they played better in both games. They kind of just got hosed in the first two games by some bad luck. The Bruins firmly beat down the Bruins deserved to win Game 1 of the second round. You can make a claim that Dallas deserved to win Game 1 and 2 against Vegas, and Vegas, had a little extra talent show off in those two games, and Dallas won 4 straight for a reason. I like their game. I really do. It was a magnificent game. Before we move on to the other series, I'll give a quick shout out. We'll dedicate a whole period to him over the summer, or like after the Stanley Cup final. But Zach Parise, man, what a career for ZP. I mean, we've been talking about ZP on and off shows for I don't know how long. He's been my very favorite player. I probably don't love hockey as much as I do without Zach Parise. 17th overall in the first round by the New Jersey Devils in the 2003 NHL draft. He played 19 NHL seasons. The first 7 were with the New Jersey Devils. The next 9 were with the Minnesota Wild. Then 2 with the New York Islanders. And then this year with the Colorado Avalanche. He had 434 goals and 455 assists in 1,254 games. Frank, you don't play that many games and score that many goals unless you're a very, very good player. He's probably going to come up just short of being a Hall of Famer, because when I think Hall of Fame, I need either 1,000 points or 500 goals. He's coming up just short of both of them. Now, there were some back issues in his mid or towards the end of his prime that probably costs him the Hall of Fame. Like, he played 42 games in 17-18, and he scored 9 goals. Like, it was just a down year for him with the back, and he wasn't playing healthy. And that was his age 33 season, and then the following year he scored 28. So, he got right back to it the following year with the Wild as a 34-year-old. But, in the later stages of your prime, when you miss basically a year and a half due to that back injury, he probably is a lot closer to 500 goals if that doesn't happen. But, I'm not going to dwell on that. He brought me so much joy for so many years. I loved the way he played. He demonstrated an effort that who else in the league? Crosby? When they're out there, you just know they're working their balls off from the second the game starts. And every single shift, you were like, who is this guy? Like a spider monkey out there. It was just 100% full speed no matter what every single shift. And I admired that, because I doubt he scores 430 something goals that extra effort and always being around the net and taking a complete beating down low, that probably netted him an extra 10 goals a season. He had enough talent to be a 25 goal guy. And let's be fair, in Zach Parisi's prime, 30 goals was like that was the upper echelon. Now if you get 30, 30 is the new 20 in a lot of ways, because guys are getting 50, 60 now. We're a higher scoring league these days than we were during Parisi's prime. When he was scoring 35, 36 goals a season, that was what today would be like 46, 47 goals. I don't have enough nice things to say about him. He was always a super sweet dude. Played his nuts off. He was a superstar grinder. He had the talent of a first rounder, but he had that like grindiness to him. He kind of looked like a fourth liner playing on the first line, scoring every other night. And that's what I loved most about him. I don't know how you felt about him in his career. I know he played a lot of it with the Minnesota Wild, so you saw some
Yeah.
big games against the Chicago Blackhawks. But man, what a career!
What a career, man. It's definitely got to be sad time for you. Do you think he signs a 1-day contract with the Devils to retire a
No,
Devil? Really?
no. I think if let's say he had an extra 50 goals and he made it to the Hall of Fame, I think it'd be the Wild.
Really?
Yeah,
Even though like he made it to the Cup with the Devils, and
yeah. I know it sounds crazy.
that's the
Um,
only reason I said that is because he made it to the Cup
he made it to
with
the
the
Cup, and
Devils.
his best seasons were with the Devils.
That's what I mean.
Um, so from his rookie year, we'll disclude his rookie year because everybody stinks not stinks, but it doesn't help your numbers. Nobody's rookie year. People will disclude Connor Bedard's rookie year this year, and he's going to win the Calder Trophy. In From 2006-07 to 2011-12, he had 180 goals in 421 games. I mean, that he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory on his final game with the Devils. And yeah, his best season 2008-9. He had 45 goals and 49 assists for 94 points, and that is when 45 goals was like today's 50. 94 points, that's the third most the Devil has ever had in a season. It was the second most the Devil ever had in a season until Jack Hughes got 99 last season. The following year, 2009-10, 38 goals, 44 assists for 82 points in 81 games played. And then the year they went to the Cup, 31 goals, 38 assists, 82 games. They made it to the Stanley Cup final. He was their second leading scorer behind Ilya Kovalchuk in the playoffs. He's got Bing votes. He came third for the Lady Bing in 09. He came fifth for the Hart that year, 13th for Hart the following year. He's got Selke votes up in here. He received the Selke vote as recent as 2016, which I know that's not so recent anymore. It's 8 years ago, but he got a Bing vote in 20. He's been a very, very good player for a very long time. And, I don't know if his style like, I can't think of a young player, maybe Zach Hyman, like a young player with his style of play where like he's got the talent of a first rounder, but the way he grinds is like a fourth liner. I don't know. Crosby, but Crosby's not young. Um, Sidney Crosby, people will say the same things about him when he retires and he'll go to the Hall of Fame because he's got about 500 more points. But I mean, you never felt like a Zach Parise team was out of a game. And like you brought up with the Devils, he played 558 games with the Wild, 502 with the Devils, which does speak to the injury that he sustained in his early 30s, because he only has 56 more games played with the Wild than the Devils in 2 extra seasons. So, and he was a pretty good old man too. He scored 21 goals last year at 38 years
That's
old.
pretty good for
Not
38 years old.
And this year's kind of fell off a little bit. 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points in 30 games. But he also missed the first half of the year, joined a new team late. And when you're on Colorado in 2024, if you're not a Hall of Famer, you're not in the top 6, basically.
Right.
So, it was a very exciting time. I loved every second of it. And I mean, Frank, you remember back in the day, I was as crazy about the Wild as I am about the Devils right now. And I was crazy about I had basically had two teams back then. And I still cheer for the Wild. I'll have a soft spot for them forever, but nothing's like the Devils. But back then it was pretty equal because of how bad I wanted him to succeed with them. And man, it's been fun. Sorry to take up so much time talking about Zach
No,
Parise, but um, I'm sure we'll have some chat about him during the summer. Maybe we'll share
absolutely.
the 5 best Zach Parise moments of all time in the NHL. But man, 19 years. That's all
It's
my
a long
life. I don't remember. I don't remember life without Zach Parise in the NHL.
Isn't that
It's a
crazy?
new era for VP as a hockey fan.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
19 years. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Oh, that 2003 draft, Frank. That's the greatest draft in any sport ever. Marc-Andre
Yeah.
Fleury, Eric Stahl, Nathan Horton, Vanek, Suter, Phaneuf, Carter, Brown, Dustin Brown, Brent Seabrook, Steve Bernier, Zach Parise, Ryan Getzlaff, Brent Burns, Mark Stewart, Mark Pouliot, Ryan Kessler, Mike Richards, Brian Boyle, Corey Perry, Patrick Eves. In the second round, Louis Erickson, Patrice Bergeron. Oh my God, Shea Weber, Corey Crawford. There's Hall of Famers in the second round.
There's
I
probably
mean,
Hall of Famers in the third round.
the third round, let's see, the Clock McCarthy. We all remember him. I know there's a big time seventh rounder in here. Let's see if yeah, let's see. Hold on. Where's that big time seventh rounder? I know there's at least one. Hold on. I know Dustin Bufflin is in this draft somewhere. I don't remember what
There is a
round.
big seventh rounder, though. I know that for a fact, too.
Oh, do you remember Tanner Glass?
Yep.
This was back when it was a 9-round draft. So, oh, yeah, I got the big seventh rounder with 476 goals, 592 assists, 1,068 points. Joe Pavelski.
There you go.
And then Kyle Brodziak played 917 games. He was a seventh rounder.
I remember him.
He was on the Wild for a hot
Yep.
minute there too. I mean, you got guys who played 200 plus games in every round. Oh, Bufflin's in the 8th round.
That's
There
crazy.
you go. This draft is just Shane O'Brien, 537 games played. He was drafted in the 8th round. Toby Enstrom, 8th round.
It's a crazy draft.
Oh, Frank, the 9th round. The 9th round's better. The 9th round had Matt Molson, 650 NHL games played. Tanner Glass, Yaroslav Halak. Yeah, those are the big. Oh, David Jones, Brian Elliott was one pick away from being Mr. Irrelevant. This draft is just there'll never be. The 2015 draft is close. The 2015 draft is getting there, but the 2003 draft, man, there will be nothing like it probably for a while. And Zach Parise was a big reason why.
Yeah,
and it's the most we'll ever talk about a losing team in the playoffs. Then later on, Vancouver Canucks, Edmonton Oilers, Game 7. The Edmonton Oilers absolutely dominated the Vancouver Canucks for the first 40 minutes of play. It looked like they were going to win the game 50-0. And after the first period, when it was 0-0 and the shots were like 20-4 in favor of Edmonton, I was like, either the Oilers are going to win this game 50-3 or the Canucks are going to win 1-0. Well, neither of those things ended up happening. Edmonton had a 3-0 lead when Ryan Nugent-Hopkins got Edmonton's red-hot power play on the board. And then in the fourth period, the Oilers laid an egg. Vancouver had the puck for essentially the whole 20 minutes. They scored 2 goals and lost the game 3-2, unable to get that tying goal late, even though they had a great chance with under 10 seconds left. Frank, Edmonton moves on. What's your takeaway from that series between Edmonton and Vancouver?
The series was a whole hell of a lot closer than I expected. With Thatcher Demko out, I felt like the Canucks really didn't have a chance. Artur Shilov's the rookie. How would he be able to contain such a potent offense against a couple of the best players in the entire world? That was my logic going in. A rookie who has just played a handful of NHL games and now be thrown into the postseason where we have the highest level of hockey being played against some of the best players in the world, he played exceptional. This series could have swung in Vancouver's favor. They were one game away from winning the series and playing the Dallas Stars on Thursday instead of the Oilers. They even put up a fight at the end of Game 7. This team is good, but just like every young team, they have a lot they have a lot to learn. And this is a big learning situation, and they could really take a lot away from it. It is very, very rare that you see a young core make their way into the postseason and win it all. Now, there are some exceptions. I saw the tweet the other day by Bucci on how long it took some of the best players in the NHL in NHL history to win their first ever cup. And frankly, there are some greats that never even got to win a Stanley Cup. That's how hard it is to win the Stanley Cup, and very hard for even a young team like the Vancouver Canucks. And like I said, there are some exceptions. Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane each got their first Stanley Cup 3 years into their career, but that's a little bit different. But and went on to win two more after that. But this stuff's extremely rare. What I could say, even though there's heartbreaking for some of these players and heartbreaking for the fans of Vancouver to lose after being that close to taking down the Edmonton Oilers and solidifying your spot in the Western Conference Finals, is take advantage of all the knowledge and experience you've earned from getting this far. Only 8 teams every year make it to the second round. So they should be very proud of themselves for the season they had, but they have a lot to learn, huge learning experience that they could take away from, but be very proud and know that this team will be back. This is a core that is very serious, and this is a core that's really turned it up a whole freaking 3 notches compared to their past couple of seasons. So pat on the back to Shelovs. He's obviously not going to be their number one with Demko in net, but and I don't know if he'll ever be a true number one, to be honest with you. Yeah, he played great, but wow, this series was a lot more fun than I expected it to be.
I do think Shelovs could be. 6th round pick, 2019 draft. He's 23 years old. He's played this well at such a young age. Last year he was even better as a rookie goaltender in a handful of games. Vancouver always just keeps pumping out goaltenders. They're one of the best organizations in the NHL at pumping out goaltenders. And we'll see how it goes for him. My guy Quinn Hughes, he'll probably win the Norris Trophy. Should be an exciting player to watch for the next decade. But it's about Edmonton right now. And Connor McDavid, he didn't even have a point, but he was dangerous in that game. He had a couple looks and a couple plays that he made that he might have not gotten the point on, but the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins goal, I mean, he's just all over the place. It was a big game for Edmonton. Leon Draisaitl might be equal to McDavid in the playoffs. I think there's a fair argument to be made. He's one of the best playoff performers I've ever seen. What he's done and what he did in Game 7 was just magical. He was even sensational up a goal with Vancouver's goalie pulled. He had that play. I thought he was going to get the empty netter, but he ended up just making the smart play instead of rifling it from down the ice. He was a force. He's big. He's strong. He kind of has a little bit of an edge to his game in the playoffs. I love watching Draisaitl play. I don't think they win crap without him. And it was a big Game 7 win for Edmonton. There would have been a lot of issues if they lost that game, I think. And they got it done. They're in the conference finals for the second time in 3 years. It should be fun to watch them play against these Dallas Stars. Frank, I know where you're going with this, even though your boy Skinner, really, really good in the series late. Middle of the series, a little shaky. Game 6 and 7, though, he took care of his business. Really, if Edmonton didn't completely fall apart in the third period, he probably would have gotten a shutout. And it would have been the third straight Game 7 that Vancouver got shut out, going back to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final in 2011 against the Bruins. That first goal that Vancouver scored was their first Game 7 goal in 10 plus years.
Yeah,
So,
it was the goal Alexander Burrow scored in Game
yeah.
7 against the Hawks
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
in overtime.
Yep. Exactly. Burrows.
Um,
Burrows. But yeah, goaltending edge. Go ahead. Shit on Skinner. He's in
I
the
mean,
conference finals again.
it's not even close in my opinion who
No,
has
it's
the
not.
edge.
Let me be
Uh,
clear. It's not. But
Skinner is just he's so inconsistent. I got nothing against him. I think he is so overrated the amount that people talk about him. To me he's not even an elite goalie. I am not giving him that elite tag. He's the only goalie in the conference finals who doesn't even have all 8 wins to get to this point. He's 7-3-0. Calvin Pickard had to come in net to get a win here. His save percentage this postseason's ass. It's .881. He's just inconsistent, but the Oilers have the offense they have to kind of pick him up, and that's what they do. And there was the fact that Calvin Pickard had to come in is just a fact that I think the Oilers are unsure about him too. Maybe it was,
at
is a
times.
yeah, and give him a break. Gave him a break to reset a little bit. Came back strong in game 6 and 7. Maybe that's what he needed. But it's still, I think in the back of the Oilers' minds, in the coaching staff, there's a little doubt there. But I mean, when you look at the other side of the ice, you got Jake Ottinger, who's been lights out. And everything we've expected out of him, he's been that and more. This is the most lights out I have ever seen Jake Ottinger play, which has to be scary for the Edmonton Oilers and their fans. The way he played against Colorado and Vegas, he beat the 2 most recent Stanley Cup winning teams in dominant fashion. That says a lot here. He's playing the best I've ever seen him play. In that double overtime game, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The saves he was making. I thought Colorado won it on 3 different occasions. It's just the way he's playing against the offenses that he's had to go up against. The Vegas offense and the Colorado offense, and now you got to go against the Oilers offense. I named 3 of some of the best offenses in the league. It's just not even close. Jake Ottinger.
Yeah, I got Jake Ottinger too. It's not close. I would rank Skinner 4th out of the 4 goalies left. But I have a hard time poo-pooing him. Maybe it's because I do think because of the offense that Edmonton presents sometimes, it's their system. And sometimes there are going to be some good looks on the goaltender the other way. He was ass in October, and it basically got Woodcroft fired. And then when the other guy comes in, he magically starts playing well. I think the system might favor him a tad bit more. But, I mean, yeah, it's Ottinger. Ottinger is one of the 6 or 7 best goalies in the NHL, I think. A little bit of a down first half this year, but he really kind of picked it up towards the end. Dallas plays magnificent in front of him. So, yeah, to me, this one isn't particularly close. Jake Ottinger, for sure. Frank, I'll let you go first this time, just in case your internet craps out again during this exact segment. You could go from 5 to down to 1. No, you could start at 1 because we know who 1 is. Who are the 5 best players in this series?
Well, number 1's Connor McDavid, not close. Very mild performance in terms of his goal scoring. 2 goals this postseason, which is very weird. He's got 19 assists though, which is just as good as goals. Leon Draisaitl's my number 2. He's the Oilers' leading scorer this postseason. He's magic come playoff time, and we've seen that. 8 goals, 16 assists. I mean, putting up those type of numbers is just crazy. I'm very interested to see how he performs against Ottinger because it's the best goalie he's going to face right now through the first 2 rounds. Number 3, Miro Heiskanen. Miro Heiskanen has been an absolute dog VP. As a defenseman, he's putting up a dog.
He's been a dog.
For a defenseman to be putting up some numbers better than a forward, and he plays the defenseman position at such a high level. He's been sensational. Could win the MVP if they win the Stanley Cup. Very well could. And this man very well could too at number 4, Wyatt Johnston. Oh my God. This guy, Wyatt Johnston, leading goal scorer for the Dallas Stars. Hard to do in your second year in the league. And you're already making a household name for yourself. This guy has been. I hope this continues like throughout next season and the year after, and I think it will because his numbers in the regular season, the first 2 seasons as a star have been great, and now you're seeing it come postseason. There's so many players, elite players, who disappear come playoff time. And Wyatt Johnston, in a small sample size in his first 2 years, been tremendous in the regular season. He's been tremendous in the postseason. He is a big reason the Dallas Stars are where they are right now and are in the conference finals. I love what I'm seeing out of this kid. And number 5 may surprise you a little bit, maybe not. I felt the need to give it to Jake Ottinger at number 5, just because I have not seen this man play this good a hockey at any point in his career. He had some great postseason performances a couple years ago when he had 60 something saves, something ridiculous. They ended up losing though. But this year, unlike any other year, I see it in his eyes. He's hungry to get that win. He's been arguably the best goalie in the playoffs. I mean, yeah, you got Bob and you got Igor. I'll hear an argument for Jake Ottinger too. He's been absolutely lights out. A 209 goals against, 918 save percentage. In the playoffs, when you're playing at such a high level, it's just unbelievable. So I felt the need to give him number 5.
Interesting. Our lists are almost the same in the first series we did. I had Panarin instead of Trocheck, just based on what I thought of him as a player. But I see why someone in the playoffs would rather Trocheck. Our lists are they're for this series. They're the same through the first 3. I have McDusty number 1. He's the best player in the world. I would take him over anyone ever. Maybe Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Orr, Cale Makar, Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby, Gordie Howe. I think McDavid's in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Leon Draisaitl. I think he's in the same top 20-ish conversation with a guy like Evgeny Malkin, right? Like Malkin was the second best player in the league for 5 or 6 straight years. I'm going to try and remember this next year in the regular season when McKinnon and Matthews and McKinnon's a little bit different, but when Matthews and them are all putting up tons and tons of points, collecting secondary assists on the power play, I'm going to try to remember what Draisaitl does in the playoffs when I'm making my player in the NHL ranking. It's hard not to say after what I've observed in the playoffs that Leon Draisaitl is not just the second best player in the NHL, maybe besides Makar, the second best forward in the NHL. Like, would I really rather have Matthews than Draisaitl? I don't think I would. I don't think I would. Now, as much as I want to say a Jack Hughes, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe next year he'll have the 110 points if he stays healthy that he always projects to have. He had 99 and 70 something. That was his breakout year. This year he was on pace for like 110 points, but he got hurt. It's Draisaitl, man. It's Leon Draisaitl. Next year, I'm going to probably say some other dumb shit when Matthews is scoring every other game, and he'll have 70 next year. Bedard will start to insert himself into the conversation, but I wouldn't take any of those guys right now. If I remember when we had that conversation, draft for a career, draft for the next 3 seasons, and then you have to redraft again. I would take Leon Draisaitl 3rd overall behind McDavid and Makar. He is that good. I can't say enough good things about him. If he were on any other team in the league, he'd be the best player in the series. Unless he were playing against the Oilers. 3rd, I got Miro Heiskanen. Miro Heiskanen was drafted 1 pick ahead of Cale Makar. Okay, do the Devils, Flyers, and Stars all wish they had Cale Makar instead? Yes, they do. But I firmly believe the Devils are happy with Hischier, and I believe the Stars are happy with Heiskanen. Heiskanen he's in that second. Cale Makar's in the S tier. He's the only one in the S tier. I would put Heiskanen in the A tier with Roman Josi and Quinn Hughes. The Adam Fox, McAvoy, the other top 10 defensemen in the NHL. He's amazing. And I think I'll say that sentence after we're done making our picks here. 4th, I put Robertson. Robertson actually passed Wyatt Johnston in playoff points. By the time that series was over, I think the world of him. A little slow in the playoffs last year, kind of picking it up a lot this year, and I think If Jason Robertson can really get going the way we see him go in the regular
Mhm.
season and the postseason, the Stars really could end up winning this series and eventually the Stanley Cup. And fifth, had a feeling you wouldn't put him, and I went back and forth on who I was going to. Am I going to put Johnston? Am I going to put Ottinger? Those were probably the two guys from the Stars I was leaning towards in this spot. I went
Mhm.
with Evan Bouchard. And I
Wow.
considered Ryan Nugent Hopkins from the Oilers too, because I think the world of his two-way game. He reminds me very much of a taller Nico Hischier. And you know how I feel about Nico's game when talking about Nugent Hopkins, but I went with
Yeah.
Bouchard because he plays on that power play with McDavid and Draisaitl. He's a power play merchant. Then why didn't Tyson Barrie do this stuff? Why didn't Darnell Nurse do this stuff? Why didn't Ryan Whitney do this stuff? He didn't play with McDavid, but I'm a little funny. But like Evan Bouchard is different. He'd be a great power. Now he might not have 20 points in 13 playoff games if he were on another team, but he might have 15 points or 14 points or 13 point per game, just on 11 points. That's still
Mhm.
really good. We're talking up Heiskanen with the same number of points, basically, as the lower end of Bouchard. He's a really first round. You're picked in the first round for a reason. It's not all McDavid. That helps. That helps. Nobody's denying it. If Makar was on that power play, he'd have 30 points in the playoffs by now. But, you know, he's a talented individual, and I think the top defenseman like that deserves a little bit of praise. I'm going to give it to him. I have him as the fifth best player in the series.
Wow. I like the pick. I do. I like the pick.
Bouchard will have top 10 Norris Trophy votes. He wasn't nominated. The nominees are Makar, Hughes, Yossi, and I think the final voting will go Hughes, Makar, Yossi. But if Bouchard's the number 4 guy or the number 5 guy in the voting, do not be surprised. Do not be surprised. I think
Wow.
he's in the mix. And what's his name from the Islanders is in the mix too. Noah Dobson. And they were drafted within like 5 picks of each other in 2018, I remember. And the Hawks took freaking Boquist. What a joke. What a joke. I was against that from day one, and you know it. It's hard to predict defensemen, but I was good at it in that draft. But then you come to 2019, I wanted Bo Byram so bad. And listen, Bo Byram's a number 1D. He's awesome. He's great. He's basically been what I thought he'd be. We'll see how he does as a number 1 or number 2 maybe or 3. Buffalo's got 2 number 1 pick defensemen too. But I'd probably rather have Mo Sider, and he was the number 2 defenseman in that draft, 2019. So it's hard to predict this stuff, but Bouchard's really good. I'm excited about it. Frank, who do you think wins this Western Conference final and in how many games?
Well, I think it comes down to the question marks for the goaltending for the Oilers. That's going to play a major factor in this series. Stuart Skinner would need to put on the best performance of his career if the Oilers are going to want to win this series. What I've seen so far out of this team is that they're still a step behind the Dallas Stars. Oilers are one of the top 3 teams who rely heavily on their offense to win games, and Dallas is capable of shutting them down. We've seen them shut down 2 elite offenses through the first 2 rounds of this playoff so far. The Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights. So I got to be honest, the Oilers are one goaltender away, one elite goaltender away from a Stanley Cup. If the Oilers had Demko, Bobrovsky, Hellebuck, I think they'd be nearly unstoppable. But right now, with that being said, I'm taking the Dallas Stars to win this series in 5.
Okay. Very interesting. I'm going the other direction. I'm going to take the Edmonton Oilers in 7.
Wow.
I think the Dallas Stars are probably the deeper team, the better team, the team I'd probably pick if I had a brain. I don't have a brain. I'm going to go with my Oilers. I said it to my dad. I worded it like this. The only team I've watched in the last 2 years more than my Oilers are the Devils and the Bruins. I think I have them. I think I've watched more Oilers than Hawks. It's close because this last season I really didn't miss a Hawks game, at least part of it, with Bedard being in the mix. But I still think it's probably the Oilers because they don't start till 9 every night. Most know when they're home. And, the Hawks, they do overlap the Devils a lot. And I don't have my 3 TV set up right now. I think it's been the Oilers as the number 3 team I've watched this last handful of years. The Bruins play at the same time as the Devils a lot too. The Oilers could be 2. They're not 1. The Devils are 1. I don't really think I missed a second, maybe here and there, but I'm riding with my guys. I've been on this team. I did quit on them. I said they were toast in November. I was wrong. I'm glad I was wrong because here they are in the conference finals. I just think if they get the scoring they need, the teams are going to take penalties and they're going to score. Dallas's penalty kill stinks in the playoffs, which is another issue. If they take penalties, the Oilers are going to score, I fear. And if it gets to a game 7, I think McDavid has a legacy game. I think if the Stars win the series, that needs to be in 5 or 6. If they let it get to 7, and it will be in Dallas, but home ice has not helped anybody outside of, they started 6-0 in the playoffs, I think, the home teams. And then it's basically been all favoring the road teams since. Were the Bruins the only home game 7 winner? Or did Dallas and Vegas? No, that was 6. There was another game 7 somewhere. Or was that a game 7 too, Dallas and Vegas?
No, Dallas and Vegas was 6.
That's what I thought. I don't remember. There was another game 7. We watched it together. I can't believe I don't remember who it was.
I don't know.
I don't remember. It doesn't matter. I think McDavid and Draisaitl have a legacy game, a statue game, if they go to game 7. So I got Edmonton in 7. I'm not confident. I think either team, I think the winner of the series will win the Stanley Cup. But Florida would have something to say. I think that too. So that's a really dumb comment for me to make. But right now I'm leaning Edmonton in 7.
The thing that the Stars got going for them is that they're the best road team in the NHL.
Yep. And that helped them against Colorado, the best home team in the NHL. 0-3 at home in the playoffs were the or in the second round were the Colorado Avalanche.
Has Dallas lost a road game?
No.
I don't think so.
No. Because 0-2 to Vegas, in Vegas.
3 straight times.
Or in Dallas. Yeah.
And then against Colorado, that's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Edmonton, they're going to need that power play clicking at home. Otherwise, they're toast.
Yeah.
It all relies on Skinner not being terrible. He's not going to be better than Ottinger. He can't be terrible, and the Oilers need power play goals. That's what it comes down to. But I'm excited for it. It's a treat. There's no doubt it's a treat. I hate Sunday 2 p.m. for the Rangers Panthers. Why, dude? Why, man? Don't they know? It's picnic season. People have picnics that I have to go to. Oh, 2 p.m. on Sunday. I wish I could eject them for that. What a moronic thing to do. I'm so mad about that. You have no idea. So dumb. So dumb. Put it at night so that when I'm crispy from being out in the sun all day, I have something to go watch once the picnic is. Oh, my God. It's so annoying.
Record it, and then you can watch it at night.
No, I don't do that. I can't do that. I have a daily that has to get published on ChicagoHockeyNow.com. Make sure you go read it. Frank, let's send it on over to period number 3. Frank, what the hell is going on in the NBA playoffs?
Some great stuff, VP. The Eastern Conference Finals, we got the Pacers and the Celtics. And in the Western Conference, we got the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. I love it. I love it. We got some fresh faces here. Pacers, Mavericks, and Timberwolves in the conference finals. 3 of the 4 teams, it's like, well, I mean, the Mavericks really aren't a surprise. I mean, they have a very, very good team. Luka Doncic is incredible. They got here by beating the Clippers and the Thunder. The Thunder, the 1 seed. The Timberwolves got here by beating the Suns and the Nuggets. And what a comeback for the Minnesota Timberwolves, setting a new record, the biggest comeback in a game 7 at halftime. They were down 15 at halftime. They were down 20 in the third quarter, and they rallied back on the road to win in the Mile High City against the reigning defending NBA champs. So hats off to the Timberwolves. They're the sleeper. I'm telling you guys, they're the sleeper here. They've been unbelievable. The Pacers, on the other hand, they're cooked. They blew it. They blew it yesterday. I don't know if you saw any of the game. Probably not. But first of all, they got here by beating the Bucks. Injured Bucks. Then the Knicks were very badly injured as well. They're the injury freaking eaters. They just eat up on all the injuries that there are in the NBA, and that's how they get to places, and that's why they're winning. Yesterday, I've never seen a team choke so bad, and because of it, they might get swept now. They were up 3 with the ball with like 20 seconds to go. Shot clock turned off. They're draining the clock, right? Celtics are trying to get the turnover. The Pacers turned it over with 8 seconds left. And then it's like, okay, we'll foul the guy so he can't take the 3 to tie the game. They don't foul. They put up a 3. Celtics tie it. Won the game. You know the game's over at that point. Once it's in overtime, you're deflated. You lost all momentum, and yeah, the Celtics win, take game 1. That's rough. That's rough for the Pacers. That's how you know it's game over. Wow. And God, I can't imagine being a Pacers fan. I don't know if I'd be able to watch the remaining games. That's so tough. But that's where we are right now. It's been a
And
lot
this
of
is
fun.
against the Seas.
Yeah.
Seas got
That's
this
such
shit.
a big joke.
The Seas got this shit. Let's go Celtics. I'm so
think
happy
it's-
the Knicks lost. By the way,
Celtics are 1-4. I really believe that.
it's fair. I mean, they probably were happy the Knicks lost, right?
Yeah, the Knicks were injured and they got blown out in game 7.
I heard Indiana couldn't miss a basket in the first quarter.
They set a record too. It was historic. They shot for the game up like 68% for the game.
That's crazy.
Which is at one point they were like, for most of the game they're in the 70s. That
They're
is
just raining.
It's unbelievable. I've never seen a performance like it. They just wouldn't miss.
That's awesome. Good for them.
Yep.
I'm happy the Knicks are out. Kind of started to annoy me having 2 MSG teams deep in their playoffs. Nasty.
Now they got 2 Dallas teams in the conference finals.
That I'm cool with as long as it's not the Cowboys. As long as it's not the Cowboys, I don't care. Put them both in their final of their sport. What did you say that series was? It's 1-0 Dal?
No, it starts tonight.
Oh, it starts tonight. Okay. I'm excited to hear how that goes.
Yeah.
I probably won't know until you tell me next week, but I'm excited for that point when I do eventually find out I'll look it up. I'll keep up with the conference finals. I'll see what's going on. If the Seas make it to the championship, I'll probably watch a game or two. Because go
All right.
Seas. Second favorite basketball team. All right, Frank. That's talking basketball. Let's do our top 10 NFL teams according to us. We do this every 2 weeks in the regular season. We haven't done it since the end of the Super Bowl, so let's do it right now. Starting from 10, you first.
Okay. At number 10, I was debating. I feel like this is the only
What
spot.
are you, Skip Bayless?
Yeah. This is a toughie. I'm putting at number 10. I'm going with the New York Jets. The key here is for Aaron Rodgers to make it past at least a minute in the regular season. What? You okay there? Anyway.
You put the New York Football Jets?
Put the Jets. The key here is for Aaron Rodgers to make it past a minute this season and not get injured.
You can't put the Jets top 10 and then crack a joke about it.
I am putting him top 10 because
a minute.
If Aaron Rodgers can deliver, he has the roster to make things happen. They've had major improvements to the offensive line to help Rodgers. They added Mike Williams, who was at level before he got injured last year. If Williams can get back to that pre-injury and Rodgers stays healthy, the Jets may finally have a winning team. I think the safest thing I could do is for me to put him at 10 on my list and see what happens where the season begins. We ain't playing checkers anymore, VP. This is chess time.
I will never put my faith in the New York Jets ever again.
Well,
ever.
it's time to
I'm
put your
sorry to
big boy
say it.
pants on, and we gotta, we dive into things.
Some people that I like root for the Jets. I
I'm
don't.
sorry.
I can't. I'm not putting. I think
It's
the Bears have a better chance of being a good team.
wow.
The Jets, the New York Jets, the
Hey,
goddamn Jets, the goddamn
when
Jets.
they're 6-0 to start the season, you're gonna hear from me.
You know who I put at number 10? My favorite team in the AFC. That's not entirely true, but one of my favorite teams in the AFC. Ho, 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 ho. The Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns shoved it up your hoop all last season. They were one of the best teams in the NFL, and they didn't even have Nick Chubby Chubb. Dude, I'm all in on the Browns. They will be a top 10 team next season. I have them at number 10. By the end of next year, I'll have them at 2.
Wow.
They'll lose to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game.
I hope not.
Oh, brother. Who would you root for?
The Browns.
You would root for the Browns.
I would root for any team in the NFL over the Chiefs. I'd root for the
No,
Packers.
not Green Bay,
I
not
will.
Dallas.
I would. I'm
That's a
not even
joke,
kidding.
Frank. Frank, that's a joke.
DP, I'm okay. Prove it. I will show you. Now I hope it happens.
The Ravens, Steelers' biggest rival.
I will root for the Ravens, and it's only because they're going for 3 in a row. Otherwise, if they
That'd be
weren't,
cool. That'd be
no,
cool.
it's stupid. That's so stupid. Why root for those teams? That's no fun. You root for the dogs, the underdogs.
I want Patrick Mahomes to end with 6 rings.
He
I want
might
him
end
to.
with 8 if he wins another one, or 9.
I want. I want him. I
So
want him to end his career as the baby goat. I like
you
Patrick Mahomes.
you better
Don't
be
touch
nervous
Tom
if
7. Don't
he's
touch
touching
Tom
Tom 7
7.
if he wins it this year. I'd be worried.
I think he blows past it.
So,
Yeah, I think 8 or 9 is legit.
and I don't want to see that again. Let's get something new. Like that's why I love this NBA playoffs this year. We got new faces.
Well, how about
Right?
the
Let's get new
NHL?
faces.
Every team left either never won the cup, Florida, or the other
That's what I
3.
mean. This is nice.
The
This
last
is
time
fresh.
they won, the year started with a 1.
Everybody hated the Hawks when they were winning all their cups. Everybody
Yeah,
loved
it's
to root
different when it's
against
your
them.
favorite team. That nobody
Yeah,
shits on you for that.
everybody hated them and wanted them to lose, and it's the same thing here. I would go Browns.
All right. Who do you have? Or I'll do number 9 now. Number 9, I have the other side of Ohio, the Cincinnati Bengals. Listen, I think there's a world where the Cincinnati Bengals actually end the season at number 2. If Joe Burrow is healthy, in my opinion, he's the second best quarterback in the NFL. There's nobody I would take long term, if healthy, over Joe Burrow. He was incredible at LS. He's basically football Cale McCarr. He was incredible in college, won the Heisman Trophy, won the national championship, makes it to the NFL, gets to the Super Bowl in his first year that he stays healthy for every game. Then each of the other 2 years, though, he dealt with some injury. This year, he grew out his hair to look like Anakin Skywalker. Episode 3, Anakin Skywalker, when he becomes Darth Vader. I wholeheartedly think Joe Burrow is going to lead the Death Star Cincinnati Bengals to glory next season, and it wouldn't shock me at all if they're one of the best teams in the NFL due to the fact that I can't be fully confident in his health quite yet, and we still are ways away from training camp beginning. I have to cap them off at number 9, but I do believe by week 5 or 6 they could legitimately be 1 or 2. I wholeheartedly believe that. Their roster matches the fact that they could have the second best quarterback in the NFL returning.
I love how differently our lists are going to be. Just like the order of them.
I mean, I think the top 2 are clear, and then the rest you could go in any order.
During the regular season, we're pretty spot on.
Yeah.
But I love this. Number 9, I got the Cleveland Browns. It's funny I say that, and then we both have the Browns at like you had Browns at 10. I haven't. Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Hello? Everything just all right. So what I was
There you
saying
go.
is the Browns are getting back healthy. Deshaun Watson, he needs to play like Deshaun Watson that they thought they were getting when they made that trade. We all know how good this defense is, and it could steal games at any moment. This is another team that needs to stay healthy though. Chubb will be back. He can't go down with an injury. Look at how this team played despite all the injuries last year. That's just because they have one of the best defenses in the NFL and a great offense and a great defense on this team. It would just be a freight train at full speed. So if they could keep the offense healthy, they're going to be very good. And I agree with you. They're going to definitely be inside the top 5. This team's very good. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if Deshaun Watson could play like Deshaun Watson, and we'll see if they could stay healthy, something they haven't been able to do, and especially something Chubb hasn't been able to do.
I'll bet you
So,
50 they win 10 plus.
See, this year I wouldn't do that because I think they can. Number 8, Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles reloaded in free agency VP. Saquon Barkley, Bryce Huff. They also added 3 defenders with their first 3 picks in this year's draft. This team had a very disappointing season last year, but I think they have the talent to rebound, and we saw that this offseason. So I'm not going to go overly crazy with them. I'm going to put them at number 8.
You know, a team is very good when last year is a disappointment for them when they made it to the playoffs.
Yep.
And kind of, were they the home team in the playoffs? They might have been. I don't remember. At number 8, I have the Miami Dolphins. If Tua Tagovailoa stays healthy, they have a chance to win football games. I like their roster. They kind of were frauds. I picked them to make the playoffs last year, and everyone laughed at me. And then I kind of turncoated and called them frauds by the halfway point of the season. But I ended up being right on both. They made the playoffs, and they were frauds. I didn't trust their defense. Their offense could be all world when Tua's hitting Tyreek Hill and Waddle and all them. I think they'll probably be more of the same this year. I think they'll be a playoff team, but are they frauds? Likely. In terms of having success in the postseason. But in terms of ranking the top 10 teams in the NFL, I absolutely think they're good enough, and I have them at number 8. At number 7, I have the Buffalo Bills. I think the Buffalo Bills, like the Cincinnati Bengals, have a quarterback that could be the second or third best in the NFL. And as long as he doesn't turn the football over, they have a chance to win games. And I enjoy watching them play. They're very fun to watch. I don't know how they're necessarily going to fare without Stephon Diggs on offense, but their defense is pretty good. And winning the AFC East shouldn't be too much of a trouble for them. I know the Miami Dolphins are there, but again, winning when it matters most. We'll see if they're able to. They ended up clawing out and being the division winners last year with the 2nd seed. We'll see if they're able to do it again this year, but the Bills, they'll probably be a pretty good team again. I'm excited to watch them play.
The Bills were like the Oilers almost. We thought they were dead early on, and then they made the playoffs.
Yep.
And it's kind of funny.
Kind of oddly, had that 2nd seed, like the Oilers had a home ice in the first round. That's
crazy?
true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Number 7, I also have the Buffalo Bills VP. I don't like that the Bills lost a lot of their players this offseason. The Stephon Diggs loss is going to hurt them quite a bit, but this team will never be bad as long as you got Josh Allen. And they did something this offseason that I think is going to benefit them tremendously. With so many of their veterans gone that they let go, Josh Allen gets to lead a much younger roster. And it's almost like they went through a reset without resetting fully. It's like not a rebuild, but they reset. And I think that's what he's going to need to help catapult him to the next step in his career. I can't wait to see what he does with all these younger guys on his team. So I'm very excited to see what they could pull out. And I'm very excited for the Bills season. Number 6, I got the Houston Texans. Houston stockpiled its defense with free agent signings. They got Stephon Diggs. Joe Mixon should help. Both those guys alone should help CJ Stroud take things up a notch. Stroud was so much fun to watch, and making the playoffs in your rookie season says a lot about just how the type of player that he is. This team overall is better this year as well. And all their offseason signings and all that, it's just going to be a huge step forward for them, I think. I can't see them being worse than last year because this team only got better. And now that Stroud's got a year under his belt, I got Houston as 6.
At number 6, I put the Philadelphia Eagles. I agree with you. They had a really good offseason. They lost Jason Kelsey. That's going to hurt their offensive line a little bit, but the Eagles have been an offensive line factory. They still have, multiple Hall of Famers playing on their offensive line right now. Obviously, they made some really nice draft picks with Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. and guys like that. But when I think of their offensive line, right, and I know they have Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson, who's going to go to the Hall of Fame. It's an incredible group, and I'm excited to see how they play. Jalen Hurts, he's probably got to have a better year. Kenny Pickett's their new backup, so we'll see how that goes. But um, they still have that like championship pedigree in my brain, and until they're no longer like in the playoff mix, I'll feel that way. But I think it's gonna continue for them this season. It wouldn't shock me if they even are one of the cream of the crops in the NFC by the time it's all said and done. At number 5, I have a team that will threaten them for that, but that they're in the AFC. But threaten them for being one of the top up and coming teams in the league. It's the Houston Texans. You named them. I think Stroud is top 5 right now. Unless he has a sophomore slump, I really don't see that changing. He's in the conversation with Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts and some of these guys for the second best quarterback in the NFL. I ranked him as the best quarterback that the Bears will face this upcoming season. They got him in week number 2. Should be a good season for Houston. It's only going to get better from here. I love Will Anderson Jr. on defense. And now that they have Stroud, they are becoming one of the premier destinations for free agents and trades. So isn't that where Diggs ended up?
Yeah.
So the Texans are going to be wonderful to watch. And the AFC South is going to go from one of those divisions that was terrible for a long time to really good. Because even though I don't have Jacksonville or Indianapolis in my top 10, I think they both have a chance to be like teams that shock the world and win 12 games and win the division or be a wild card team. One of those two teams could absolutely be in our top 10 by the end of next season. So the Texans are going to have some stiff competition in the coming years with the teams like that. But I have them at number 5.
Number 5, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. When the Bengals are fully healthy, they're one of the best teams in the NFL. Last year, they couldn't have been more injured. This offseason, yeah, they lost Joe Mixon, but they signed Zach Moss. I think Moss can excel if given an opportunity, and that's what he's going to get with this team is an opportunity. This roster is very good, and I like that Burrow didn't overdo anything last year in the regular season, and then they missed the playoffs, and they have a full year to rest with no postseason. I think this team's coming with a vengeance, so I put them at number 5.
You did what I didn't have the balls to do.
I think they're going to be fantastic.
I hope so.
Number 4. Number 4, where's Don Burr? I got the Detroit Lions. One of the biggest questions coming into this year and all of last year was the Lions defense. During this year's draft, they did well about addressing those issues. The offense is there, and with the defense slowly coming together, they are going to hopefully prove to the fans that last year wasn't just a one-off.
Very fair, Frank. I have the Detroit Lions at number 4 as well. Where's Don Burr? Love Don Burr. Detroit, they have Jared Goff. Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford were traded for one another. There were a couple draft picks that went back to Los Angeles or that went back to Detroit as well. They got rid of the better quarterback. Yes, Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback, but since the trade, their stats in the regular season are borderline identical. And it's really cool to see because Jared Goff was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He was okay with the Rams, but I mean, he really took a step with Detroit. He found a home there, and he's leading this Detroit team to good things. Their defense is going to be much improved. I think they win the NFC North with relative ease. I think Green Bay takes a slight step back, but Chicago takes a slight step forward, and Detroit will benefit from that. Because the second place team and third place team probably 10-ish win teams. And meanwhile, I think they could be pushing 13, 14 wins. So we'll see what happens with the Lions, but I like what they're doing. At number 3, I have the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens have been incredible for the last handful of years now, but last year they were exceptional. It all comes down to Lamar Jackson's health, though. 2 years ago, he was a little hurt. The Ravens were a little disappointing. Last year, he was healthy the whole season. He was MVP, and they were the best team in the NFL. In the playoffs, it's a little bit different of a story, but we're not ranking playoff teams right now. We're ranking teams going into next season with Derrick Henry joining Lamar Jackson, that could take some of the pressure off Lamar as a runner. They probably will be one of the best offensive rushing teams in the NFL, if not the best, knowing how much Lamar Jackson could run and how much Derrick Henry could run. I think them two as a duo will have the Ravens near the top of the offensive rushing yards gained statistic category. So I have them at number 3.
Our lists aren't that crazily different.
No.
But at number 3, I got the Baltimore Ravens. They didn't do a ton in the offseason. They didn't have much cap space to spend, but they did sign Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson was just heating up last year. The offensive line's a little bit sketch, but this team is still very much dangerous. And yeah, maybe adding Derrick Henry was all part of their plan and maybe kind of taking that run load off of the Ravens a little bit. We'll see. Team's not a whole heck of a lot different than it is last year, but you did add Derrick Henry. I do still think they'll be elite and Super Bowl contenders. We'll see how the cards fall, though. And number 2, got the San Francisco 49ers. This team's not going to look a ton different than it was last year. There were rumors that Debo and Ayuk would potentially be traded. They aren't going to leave this team. They did lose Chase Young, tough hit in free agency, but he'll be replaced by the new Leonard Floyd. So, I mean, this team got rid of some key defensive pieces, but also added them back. I don't see there being a ton of difference that this team was last year. So, if anything, they kind of got stronger and more fueled after a Super Bowl loss. Got the 49ers at number 2.
I also have the San Francisco 49ers at number 2. They made a couple improvements over the offseason. I think they have the best roster in the NFL. I think they have had the best roster in the NFL for each of the last 2 seasons, 2022 and 2023. They had the best roster in the NFL. When talking about different positional groups, they had exceptional players at all of them. And I don't think that much has changed at all. It's going to be more of the same. They'll probably smoke every team they play in the NFC for the most part this season. It wouldn't shock me if they end the season with the best record in the NFL, because even the team I have ahead of them plays in a tougher division than the San Francisco 49ers. They should be able to smoke the Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals. Like, the Rams will present a challenge. The Seahawks will present a challenge, but I think the 49ers realistically could go 6-0 against their division. And then, the rest of the schedule could be pretty cake for them the rest of the way based on the talent that they have. If Brock Purdy doesn't turn the football over and he's, the 10th best quarterback in the NFL, they'll be a Super Bowl contender once again. Wouldn't shock me if they won it. At number 1, though, I have the back-to-back undisputed Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. They're the best team in the NFL. They're the best team in the NFL. Their roster is slightly weaker than San Francisco. I really think the only reason it's slightly weaker, San Francisco has more weapons. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs would kill for an Ayuk or a Debo or a Kittle. I mean, they have Kelsey, but beyond Kelsey, it's not what it once was. Who did they sign? They signed one good receiver over the summer, though.
I don't know.
I forget. I could pick this up really quick because I know they're going to be your number 1 too, and we're going to spend the next couple minutes talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. But I really think that having Patrick Mahomes changes everything. Yeah, they got Hollywood Brown. That's right. So they have Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and and they drafted Xavier Worthy, the guy who broke the NFL Combine record for the fastest 40 of all time. They went to the draft and said, yeah, we're the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Oh, this all-pro tight end, we don't need him. Oh, this all-pro left guard, we don't need him. Let's take the guy who's the fastest player of all time and see if Patrick Mahomes could turn him into a superstar. I would bet on Xavier Worthy possibly winning Offensive Rookie of the Year in the AFC just because he's going to have number 15 chucking him the ball with Travis Kelce on the other side of the field. It is going to be glorious to watch. I'm very excited for the Chiefs. I do think they're going to win back-to-back Super Bowl championships, and the whole world is going to be nice and pissed off, but it is what it is. Again, 49ers, better roster, minus number 15. He changes everything. It's hard. I learned my lesson with New England. Now, I loved Tom Brady. He's my all-time favorite football player. I'm literally wearing a Patriots hat right now. That's why. It's because of 12. But I like Patrick Mahomes. I don't love him as much as I loved Tom Brady. I'll never love anyone that much in football. But I know I've learned my lesson on picking. Like when you picked against Tom, everyone else picked the other team. I remember when I made that big board for the Super Bowl party. On the Patriots side was Vinny and Joey. On the other side was 15 names. Who won the money? Me. Um, you can either hop on the wagon and look really smart, or you could continue picking against them, banging your head into the wall over and over and over again. He's been in the AFC Championship game for 6 straight years now. Lost all but or won all but 2, Joe Burrow and Tom Brady, and I don't see him not making it the AFC Championship game at minimum, which makes him a Super Bowl threat again. I have him at number 1. Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs as the number 1 team in the NFL. They're going to be all sorts of they're going to have all sorts of headlines this season too, with the dumbass shit that Harrison Butker said to having Taylor Swift on their side. I mean, it's going to be crazy with them as number 1. But Frank, it looks like you're back. What do you got as your number 1? And why is it the Chicago Bears?
Well, Vinny thinks it's the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know why everybody thinks it's the Kansas City Chiefs. You think it's a Kansas City? I'm sure Don Burr in chat thinks I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs. We got hello.
You're good.
That was weird.
Been a tough episode for you.
It's been very tough.
It happens.
Yeah, I mean, we still got the outage going on. It's
Yeah.
still not back up, so I'm still on a hotspot, which makes
It
it
happens.
tough. So as I was saying, you think Don Burr? We got Nona was watching today for the first time. We got Tom Paul and Nona watching us, VP. They probably think it's the Chiefs, right? Maybe even Katie. Katie probably thinks it's the Chiefs. Well, it's not the Chiefs, VP. Yeah, it's the Chiefs. I got the Chiefs number 1. The reigning Super Bowl champs. They got to stay number 1.
Who did you think you were fooling? Because then you would have put them 2, right, or 3.
They got to be number 1 on the list. They're the reigning Super Bowl champ. I could have done this list completely blind, and I would have put the Chiefs number 1. Like, there's no explanation. No matter what, they could have lost Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. It's a respect thing. I got to keep the number 1, the team that won the Super Bowl at number 1. It's like whoever wins the Stanley Cup, whoever wins the Super Bowl, they're always the odds-on betting favorites to win it next year because it's like a respect thing. That's what happens. So I got the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1. VP was sweating. He thought I wasn't going to have the Chiefs.
No, I didn't. I was wondering how, because like you don't think the freaking Eagles or the Texans are better than the Chiefs. Like you just don't.
Could have put the Cowboys.
Get out.
They didn't even make my list.
They didn't make mine either. Neither did Green Bay. Thank God. The Bears will crack my top 10 before Green Bay next. That's my prediction.
And the Jets will too.
To me, picking against the Jets is like picking for the Chiefs. I've learned my lesson. I've watched this movie. I had no doubt that the Bruins were going to win Game 7 at TD Garden over the Maple Leafs. Like I've watched that movie 4 times now. So when it happens next year and all the people are like, oh, but the Leafs, it feels different this year. Austin Matthews had 75 goals. I don't care. The Leafs, until they do it, are losing Game 7 in Boston, and as far as I can tell.
But when were you putting your faith in the Jets? There was no reason to at any point.
Oh, I was on the Jets wag. I
know.
I picked the Jets to make the playoffs last year.
I know, but why? Because Aaron Rodgers got injured. It was Jover.
Frank, when I picked them to make the playoffs, it was because of the Aaron Rodgers hype.
Right.
I know he's back, right?
Yeah, right.
Something else will go wrong.
We'll see.
It's the New York Jets. The goddamn Jets. Teams change narratives. You can change narratives. Theo changed the narrative for the Cubs. I now believe they can win the World Series any year they have an elite roster. But until 2016, what can go wrong will go wrong. Dallas has that right now. The Blues had it for the longest time. They had the best roster in the league, and they traded for Ryan Miller in his prime and got smoked by the Hawks in the first round. Like, like how the Blues lost that series to the Hawks, I have no idea. And some teams are just cursed until they're not anymore. The Leafs are cursed. Maybe one day they won't be.
They are cursed, yeah.
One day they won't be. But they got to figure it out. The Jets got to figure it out too. At least the Bears have like a one-off, here and there, something. But yeah, I don't know. I not high on the Jets. Frank, what are you watching this weekend?
You'll be happy to know we're gonna finish the Traders.
Season
Season
2.
Yeah, that's just about over. We watched 3 eps the other night. So we're in the home stretch now. I don't want to say anything in case there are people who want to watch. I still feel like it's fresh to where I shouldn't spoil anything. But yeah, it's been going good. Also, I haven't finished Echo, Marvel's Echo. It's only a 5-episode season. We watched the first episode again for the second time. What's wrong? We got some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Let me guess.
Go ahead, say it.
Sheldon Keefe.
Sheldon Keefe
No
is
surprise.
the new head coach of the New Jersey Devils. Let's go. Cup time. He better learn his Taylor Ham. He better learn his Bruce Springsteen. He better learn his Jack Hughes.
You interrupted me for
Go.
Sheldon Keefe.
Sheldon Keefe is an outstanding head coach. Outstanding.
It ain't no Dan Bilesma.
Get out. Frickin' Bilesma is going to be the next coach of the Kraken, by the way. I don't know why you were ever worried he'd be anywhere. He's their I forgot he was their AHL team's coach.
He's coming.
He will be the Kraken's next head coach. They will hire him this summer. That's my prediction.
I'm pretty sure when you asked me who it's going to be, I said Sheldon Keefe.
And
this was a slam dunk.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. Sheldon Keefe will have Luke Hughes. Sheldon Keefe will have Luke Hughes buzzing up and down the ice, feeding Jack. And Austin Matthews was so good under Keefe. He took that next step as a superstar. William Nylander, Mitch Marner, they took those next steps as superstars. It is time to get Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier going as superstars in the NHL. Number 1 overall picks. You got pick number 10 this year. Maybe you trade it. Maybe you bring in Brady Tkachuk or something crazy like that. You trade for a goaltender. Let's go. I'm pumped. I'm so jacked up right now.
How dare you interrupt me?
Go. All right, back to what you were watching this weekend.
Marvel's Echo. I haven't finished it. It's only a 5-episode season. That's pretty much it. Besides the Traders finale too. We got the finale of Survivor. Going to be watching all the conference finals, NBA games, NHL conference final games. A lot of shows or sports are getting down to the end, the nitty gritty. So just going to be watching all that and taking care of all that.
Hell yeah. You know what I'm going to be watching this weekend?
Sheldon Keefe interviews.
Sheldon Keefe interviews, videos of Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner buzzing around the ice. Oh, yeah. I'm so ready. I'm so ready. You know who the first person to mention it was? Rear Admiral from Spit and Chicklets. RA. RA was the first one to confirm it. I am so jacked, Frank. Britain Breaking Bets, you can frickin' bet on me taking over under 10 shots of whiskey. No, I'm kidding. Dude, I'm jacked. Now they trade for a goaltender, get one more top 6 forward. Doug Hamilton needs to be healthy. Jack Hughes needs to be healthy. Back to business next year. No more of this being a mediocre team crap.
What'd your mom say?
Let's frickin' go. I'm pumped, Frank.
I did not hear a word you said. It was like gone.
Oh, well, I was just going off about how excited I am.
Oh,
So now it is time for America's favorite podcast segment of the week, Breaking Bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Welcome to Breaking Bets, America's favorite podcast segment of the week, brought to you by Rabbit Gaming, your premier peer-to-peer marketplace. Check out what they are building over at rabbitgaming.com. Frank, the floor is yours.
all right, VP. Well, first and foremost, we're at the 50% mark. Not terrible, not too shabby. I'll take it. I would like to say, first off, we're not gonna do any MLB picks this week because the conference finals is going on. We're gonna do 2 hockey picks and 1 NBA pick. We're gonna focus on the conference finals this week because after this ends, we're gonna have a lot of baseball. So we're gonna put the hold on baseball this week and do some hockey picks and NBA pick. First off, we're gonna start off with tonight's game. We got the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers. We're going to go with the Florida Panthers money line at minus 112, bet to win 3 units. The Rangers, they're coming off a very emotional win against the Carolina Hurricanes. They had a 3-0 series lead against the Canes, begin to slip away when the Hurricanes forced Game 6. All signs pointed towards the Hurricanes forcing Game 7, and they would be on the verge of potentially making history. Until the Rangers, that was a huge win for the Rangers. A huge series win for the Rangers. A huge win for the Rangers. Send them to the Eastern Conference Finals. It was a very emotional win for them too, and the fans. With that being said, I think the Rangers are due to come out a little sluggish after that win, and the Panthers are well rested, and they had a much more straightforward victory against the Bruins. I think they're going to take advantage of the Rangers coming off of such a high in Game 1. So we're going to go with the Florida Panthers money line at minus 112, bet to win 3 units. I hope you heard that because my stuff was flashing again. Am I
Most
good,
of
V?
it. Most of it.
Most, yeah, it's been rough.
Yep.
My second pick, we got tomorrow night. We got the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. We're going to take the Dallas Stars money line at minus 130, bet to win 3 units on that one. The Oilers, they've just busted their ass down 3-2 in their series against Vancouver, and to come back and win in 7 games. The one thing the Oilers have the advantage of in this series is their power play and their penalty kill. Both are ranked number 1 in this postseason. The Dallas Stars, on the other hand, have one of the most important advantages, in my opinion, in this series, and that's having Jake Ottinger. He was sensational against Colorado, and the Avs' offensive production is very similar to that of the Edmonton Oilers. We saw this team shut down one of the best offenses in the league, and I expect to see it again. Stars take Game 1 of this series at minus 130, bet to win 3 units, which leads me to my third and final pick, which has to do with tonight's game between the Denver Nuggets, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. We're going to go the line's a little juiced here. It's pretty big. It's minus 180, but we're going to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves money line at minus 180, bet to win 4 units. I love that one of these 2 teams are going to be headed to the NBA Finals, the Mavericks or the Timberwolves. We're going to have a new face in the finals this year, and you could count on this series being an absolute slugfest, VP. The Dallas Mavericks have started out both Game 1 against the Sun and Game 1 against the Thunder out super, super slow. They lost both of their Game 1 games this year by double digits in each game. The Mavericks just never jump out big in Game 1 of any series in the playoffs in a big way. But the Timberwolves, Minnesota, that building's going to be buzzing with the Timberwolves hosting their first conference finals game in 20 years. I think the Timberwolves take game one just simply off the fact that I haven't seen Dallas jump out big in any series so far. So we're going to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves money line at minus 180, bet to win 4 units.
Very, very good, Frank. Good stuff. Keefe is the new coach of the Devils.
It's all right. They need a goalie. They need a goalie.
They needed a coach too.
I'll
Did you watch
coach
Lindy
them.
Ruff?
I'll
Did you
coach.
watch Lindy Ruff? Did you
I
watch
could
Lindy
coach
Ruff?
better than these guys. Get a goalie. They have a team. Get a goalie.
They needed a coach too. Just as bad. Just as bad.
Nah, I wouldn't say just as bad.
Just as bad, dude.
No way.
Alexander Holtz was playing on the fourth line.
I get that. I'm not saying they didn't
Jack
need a
Hughes
coach.
was playing wing. Jack Hughes was playing wing,
Defense.
Frank.
I get that.
No,
that.
they needed a coach. They needed a coach terribly.
Absolutely.
Awfully.
I completely agree. They needed a coach, not as bad as a goalie.
Every goalie will look better with Keefe as the coach.
They will not
including
win
especially they have Jake Allen. He's good.
They will not win anything if they don't get a goalie.
I agree. But Jake Allen is good enough, and they'll add one more goalie. Jake Allen will be their 1B. But
that's fine.
They needed a coach. I need spread out the defense. Like Nemitz and Hughes shouldn't have to carry the load that they did, and they were great. But the way they run the power play, like what were they doing? Like when Jack Hughes was hurt, they were still trying the same thing over and over again, and it wasn't working without a guy like that who could drive offense through the center of the ice and gain the zone the way that he does. It's harder. You have to come up with different things. Having Eric Holla center the second line with Jack Hughes on the wing is the most putrid, disgusting thing I've ever seen a coach do in the NHL. Your top two centers should be Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes no matter what. Jesper Bratt should be glued to the hip of Jack Hughes no matter what. Timo Meier should not be on the third line with Alexander Holtz. Like Timo Meier needs to be playing on the top six. He needs to be on the top line with Nico Hischier. He needs to be on the top power play unit every single game, no matter what, not playing power play at all. Like Timo Meier is one of the best power forwards in the NHL. He needs to be used. Alexander Holtz is a kid. You can't expect him to be all that great defensively all the time. Even Connor Bedard wasn't all that great defensively this season. He was the second worst plus minus in the NHL, but he's 18 years old. You need to give Alexander Holtz that chance. He did have 14 goals, and all of them but one were at even strength. Like, there are things you can do to make this team better than they were last year, and the coach just didn't do any of it. So, and they fired him mid-season, and they brought in his carbon copy, Travis Green. I feel bad for Ottawa Senators fans. They hired him as their head coach, but like Sheldon Keefe, if he did anything right, he got Toronto's offense going. He was hard on William Nylander. Nylander had 98 points this season. Austin Matthews had 69 goals. What can he get Jack Hughes to do? I'm so pumped about this. I can't.
Ooh.
I might sound crazy, but I'm really, really excited about this hire. I cannot wait to see what
he's a fantastic coach. In your opinion, who's the best coach ever in the NHL history?
In NHL history, I would take nobody over Scotty Bowman.
Okay. Scotty Bowman could be coaching this team. If they don't get a goalie, they ain't getting past the second round.
Get out.
I'm being dead serious. They need a goalie.
I agree. Jake Allen played well in the second half. I would not go into next season with Jake Allen as the number one. But if he's your backup, that means you have a good duo.
They need a goalie.
And you can need more than one thing. The Hawks need like 7 things.
Listen, the Devils needed a coach, but they need a goalie more. They need a goalie more than air.
Well,
are you okay with them being eliminated in like the second round next year? No.
I would love that.
Well, then you're on glue. I'd be pissed if my team was eliminated.
I'll be mad at that time. But if you guaranteed me the second round next year after having a struggle this year, yeah, I'd sign up. I'd sign on the dotted line now.
I'm convinced if they don't get a goalie, they might not even make playoffs. To be honest,
that's fair.
They need a goalie.
That's fair. They did make it with V 2 years ago,
which is fine.
I don't know what it was about this. All those things I named, that rant I went on just now, but I can't put into words. They don't have Tyler Toffoli. Do they sign him? Do they trade for someone? They need one more top 6 forward. I would like another defenseman, either second or third pair, because you got Hughes, Hamilton, Nemitz. Those would be the top pair guys. Siegenthaler and Marino probably need to be a little bit better. And then you need a goalie. But, like, what if they get Jake DeBrusk Matt Grzelcyk or Linus Allmark from the Bruins, one of those three. And then the other two positions that they don't get, you find them elsewhere. Like, look at how good Radko Gudas was this season for Florida. Think of a guy like how Forsling became something for Florida. Like, just find a guy like that to play defense. Figure out the top six. Dawson Mercer's a really good player. You know what the big four are going to bring with Bratt, Hughes, Heischer, and Meyer. I don't know. I'm very excited about this. I really hope this pans out. I hope my vision of what Keefe can do to this roster comes true.
I hope so too, for your sake, VP.
My sanity, dude. Seriously. But Frank, this was a good show other than your stupid internet. Got anything left to say before we head on out of here?
Just hope that this outage is fixed sooner rather than later. This has been terrible.
Yeah.
This has been a long outage.
Yep. And really, because of our upcoming vacation in 2 weeks, we only have one more show before the Stanley Cup final. So hope everybody enjoyed this season. It's been an absolute blast. We're looking forward to putting a bow on the 2023-24 season in the coming weeks. And then it'll be right on into the 2024 NHL draft. Frankie's Hawks will pick second. My Devils will pick 10th. And yeah, I'm very, very excited for what's going on, starting with Sheldon Keefe, baby. Let's go.
You're nutty.
I'm nutty, but I take pride in knowing what my team needs and, you know, having like strong opinions about it because, you know, the season sucked as far as that.
Yeah.
When you're expected to be good and you stink, it's the worst.
I think
It's one thing when you stink and that's it. But when you're expected to be good, it's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the absolute worst. All right, Frank, thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you for having a great show. And as always, thank you for listening.